shot to feel alive. We've only got one shot to feel alive. We've got one shot just to feel alive. We've got one shot. Yeah! We've got one shot. Do you feel alive? Get in, get out. You know that we won't back down to feel alive. Waiting for the chance to show the world who we are. We've only got one shot. Whoa. We've only got one shot. Whoa. We've got one shot to make it count. Waiting for the chance to show the world who we are. We've only got one shot.
Well, good evening everybody and welcome back to the F1 Creator Series, brought to you and powered by EA Sports. It truly is in the game tonight and it's all about the title. Can't wait for this one because of course we have got a gargantuan fight on our hands. In terms of the points permutations, it's between Rasin Chai, MSkyZ, Meraki and Tom97, but in terms of the matter of facts that we've got right in front of us here, it certainly looks likely that it's going to be settled between Rasin Chai and MSkyZ. Who will take it? Who knows? We're going to be centering our attention around the Jeddah Corniche circuit here tonight, and to take you through it is myself, George Morgan here, your commentator, and alongside me, as always, the one, the only, he's Gilligan's, it's Dan Gilligan. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fantastic, thank you, darling. Always appreciative of the wonderful intros that you give me as well. Of course, everybody in the chat, and can we get some W's from Mr. George Morgan, please? That'd be very, very good indeed. But yes, all very exciting, all very excitable, in fact, as we get ready to go for this evening, last round of the season. Many different people could be champion. Who will be? Who knows? We will in the not too distant future. But it's all going to be, hopefully, clean?
so clean? Oh, we'll find out. We will find out. Around the Corniche, I don't think so.
No.
First of all, well, a guy that we're probably likely to be talking to a lot through tonight's broadcast is the one, the only Scott Taylor. Scott, in many ways, the drivers hope that we don't talk to you too much, but I think on the basis that we are here in Jeddah tonight, I think we're going to be seeing a few Lance Strolls here this evening.
I was just about to say poor Lance Stroll as well. I was just about to say that turn 3 corner isn't going to take anyone out. There's a couple of other tricky parts of the sector. I've got a funny feeling that we're going to be needing to show you some analysis tonight. But you know what? I'm here. I'm ready. Can Razin seal it out? Or SkyZ get close enough? I'm just happy to be here for you.
Hey, listen, Scott, we've got lots to look forward to. And from your perspective, what is your belief as to what we could experience here tonight? Who do you think is going to rise above the parapet? Who do you think is going to take home the big prize tonight?
I do like the underdog story, and as much as MSkyZ is not the underdog, just considering this final flight needs like 2 points or something. So for this race, I'm looking at him as the underdog here. It seems almost unobtainable, but there's still enough hope left if Razin has any sort of incidents in the first sort of few laps or anything. Like, I think I'm rooting for SkyZ, but Razin's nice as well. I don't know what to do. What do you think?
Well, it's going to be a big mystery. Obviously, we're going to digest it as time goes on, and Scott, we will be catching you later on as well. So we're gonna push Scott out of the way, guys, and me and Dan Gilligan are going to talk things out. Obviously, Dan, looking ahead, we got a fantastic circuit outlined here this evening. The Jeddah Corniche, we witnessed the real-life Grand Prix earlier on. We also witnessed the debut of the F1 Academy as well. So that's certainly very thrilling to see. Obviously, the women getting centre stage for the first time properly, and free to view as well on YouTube if you guys haven't checked that out as well. And here we are live at the Corniche, and we've got Rasin Chai, current championship leader, who has a great chance to take all the marbles home with him here tonight. And I have to tell you, 13 points in front, Dan. It's going to be hard for anyone to catch him.
It's going to be very hard, but, you know, we have seen stranger things happen in the Creator Series before. We've seen championship leads be obliterated to nothing or to dust entirely. And all these things, they can happen. They can befall somebody who might get a little bit overconfident, a little bit cocky maybe. Not that I'm suggesting Rassen's that sort of a person, but we've seen that before. And so it's not beyond the realms of possibility. It could happen again. But we'll have to wait and see, of course, how they perform here. But of course, you would imagine with them leading the title into this final round, they will have put a fair amount of practice, fair amount of effort into trying to secure that title here today. I'd say that without having looked at the various different permutations thus far, a podium would probably be enough to settle it for them here today.
Yeah, it certainly would be. In fact, if we have a look at the numbers in great detail, of course, intermediate championship points aside, all Racing would need to do is essentially finish in the top 6, and that will grant him at least an opportunity at winning the title. If he finishes P5 or above, even if mSkyZ wins, he will take the crown, and it'll be his first crown as well. And incidentally as well, what a weekend he had last time out at Bahrain as well. Once again, sandy circuit in the desert. He took victory, but not only that, pole position, and he also took the intermediate pole as well. He was dominant last time out, and it's hard to believe that that was only Racing Chai's first victory this season, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've been putting in some solid drives all season long, and so for it to be that late on that we actually start to see them on the top of the rostrum is quite a surprise indeed. But yeah, it's all looking very interesting, and they set the first time of the day then. First one out there, and by the end of this one, they're going to hope first on the racetrack as well. 1:31.2 to get the Inters Championship off to a flying start, already ahead of that guy Vince.
Yep, certainly has done. 1:31.267 with that guy Vince in second place. Quite the gap in between them, just over 0.5 of a second, 41 thousandths upon that 0.5 of a second difference. There's mSkyZ on an outlap as well, someone who has obviously been in the forefront of many a moment this season. Had a very unfortunate run in the Mystery GP just before Bahrain, a DNF, a retirement in that instance, and even prior to that, incidents in Austria really have tainted his, I suppose, closing chapter in this series, but has taken 2 podiums in his last 3 races. Bahrain ending up in P2 and Portugal taking the third step of the podium as well. We're going to now cross over and take a look at mSkyZ, who has certainly made his presence known so far this season and has outrageous one-lap pace as well, Dan, and he's going to need that tonight.
They certainly shall, yeah, and onto a set of soft tyres straight away as well, so not gambling on an Inters tyre at this stage, not also going for a medium tyre lap to get us started as well, so that might indicate they've gone for a softer tyre allocation. That might then limit their choices in the race, but of course, it being Jeddah, we have the anticipation, shall we say, that it's all going to go a little bit Pete Tong for everybody involved here, and we'll get feisty, shall we say, with safety cars aplenty, I'm sure, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to be a very interesting battle, I think, as things go on. But as it is right now, we're watching as mSkyZ comes up to this last part of the circuit. They're not quite in Sector 3 just yet, but getting towards it. This corner coming up here, we can call the Stroll corner, after they manage to go ahead and stuff it at that particular corner then. And it's one where I also may have been taken out unceremoniously earlier on in Formula 2 for Race Series, of course. If you weren't around to see that, then go back and check the VOD later on. It was a very entertaining couple of races. But round the final corner comes mSkyZ, maybe a bit far wide of the apex there, but manages to get the car straightened up. Down towards that start-finish line we go then. No rules like in Formula 1 in the real world, where you need to be away from that line left-hand side, and he goes and puts in a 1:26.8 to open out our dry running of the day.
Yeah, supreme start there for mSkyZ, just getting one on the board. I do get the feeling that perhaps negating the idea of going for that initial intermediate tyre lap, I think it's more to get in the head of his opposing drivers. Obviously, this is a mind battle as much as it is a pace test. mSkyZ, who took victory in the very first round of this championship here in this season in particular at China, taking all 25 points and pole position in the process, has now managed to launch himself onto pole position on 3 occasions through the course of this season. Of course, China being the first, he followed it up then at Austria, then Portugal. So only the one in the first half of the season, but it's certainly shown in the second half that he can grab poles. But it has led to a lot of the narrative being centered around the fact that he is only, should we say, necessarily better in qualifying, not necessarily in the race. That's where it all tends to fall apart. But this time around, he's going to need to be at his very best if he wants to take the title this time around. We have now got B-Roy out on track as well, who's currently making his way around the first sector, now the second sector. Team radio here from Rasin Chai. This is not a strong track for me. And that is certainly the last thing he ought to be saying, or the last thing he ought to be comprehending when there is a title to be decided. You can't let the negatives seep in here, Razin. You just surely can't.
You certainly can't. I appreciate that you're trying to get through telepathically to Razin at this point in time. I'll chime in as well. Yeah, you absolutely can't. We've got B-Roy at the minute on our screens, who had an interesting interpretation of the track a bit earlier on in the lap, and they've also gone for the Oscar Piastri style clout of the wall there as they come out of the final corner. But they've then also decided to come into the pits whilst crossing the white line on pit entry. Really, I feel as though we may have given him stage fright by bringing up the cameras on him.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of stage fright now as we see Infratic heading through the middle sector and looking to try and harness the power of that Ferrari that witnessed one Oliver Behrman stand up at the Jeddah Corniche circuit for his very first Formula One appearance, one of the youngest drivers that we've ever seen in Formula One. But on top of that, a British Ferrari driver that we haven't seen since Eddie Irvine back in the late 90s into the early 2000s as well. Of course, later to be taken over by Rubens Barrichello, and he would move to Jaguar. But great to see Infratic back again. He'll be looking to launch his first time on the board. 34.118 in Sector 1, 29.621 in the second sector, which is certainly not comparable necessarily with Rasin Chai's time, and hence why I think he's now barreled himself into the pit lane. Nogueira now out on track. Now, someone who has definitely shown promise here is Nogueira. He is just about above the playoff zone here as well, Dan. Now, obviously, just to explain to those of you at home that might not be aware of this, we have got a playoffs battle currently brewing and stewing here in this series. At the end of the day, those who fall below it will be moved into the F2 Championship, with those that fly above the playoff zone in the F2 Championship getting promoted to F1 as Nogueira goes second fastest with a 1:27.369. That was on soft tyres, but not necessarily comparable with M Sky Z.
No, certainly not. And when we take a look at that lap, I mean, it looked tidy in some places, scruffy in others. So there's definitely some time to find there for them. And then we also get to see, of course, all the other drivers that will come on through. We've got, of course, on screen right now, Safso, Season 1 champion of the Creator Series, of course. And as we come up and through this great big long hairpin here, I would imagine that we might well be seeing a fair amount of overtaking in this particular part of the circuit then. During the race, certainly we saw some of it going on in F2 earlier on, and we saw attempts at it by Alexander Albon in the race just a day ago. And as we head on up here then, he's going to pick up a slight toe, you would imagine, here from the Williams, jumps out of the way, and then into Lance Stroll corner. Hopefully his Aston Martin doesn't befall the same fate. It doesn't, and he manages to get through there nice and quickly. And then as he heads on down towards the end of the lap, then it's going to be interesting here. He goes a little bit further away from the edge of the wall than you could potentially be. And so might then have just extended the distance he's travelled ever so slightly. Round the final turn, going for the late apex, the drive out nice and well into the final part of the lap. Down the start-finish straight we go. DRS opens, shortest run to the line. And across the line goes Safso with a 1:27.4 just to slot them in behind Nogueira.
Yeah, Rasin Chai also improving on his previous lap as well. It's just gone purple in the first sector with a 31 and immediately challenging here at the top end as he looks to bring down M Sky Z at the very top. Goes across the line but loses out in the final sector and in the middle sector to boot as well. M Sky Z finding a huge amount in sector 2 in comparison to Rasin Chai, who did show that pace in sector 1. We're now going to take a look at GB68, who he, of course, was also in the championship affair, but, of course, missing out after last race at Bahrain. And he did, of course, not take part in that one. We missed a few drivers from that occurrence, including the likes of Benjamin Daly, Alex Gillen, and also not forgetting as well, further back, we had Tom, who is currently down P10th in the championship, but he announces his arrival back in the series and goes fourth fastest after collecting a very useful toe off a a certain McLaren as he now pulls up on the left-hand side. Great to see Tom back, and look at that, some of the heavyweights in this championship. M-Sky-Z first, Rasin Chai second, Noiguera in third, Tom in fourth. But very shortly we will be seeing more and more drivers taking on, of course, those soft tyres. Just want to allude to as well, folks, as JD Devil Noob makes his way up towards the line, we did allude to Michi Hoyer, this of course being his final full-time appearance in the F1 Creator Series, so we do wish him well with that, and obviously he'll be doing his absolute damnedest to go out with a smile on his face.
Absolutely, and you know, if the requests from a certain Mr. Hayden Gullis earlier on in the season for how to pronounce Michi Hoyer's name in the event of a podium are to be upheld, then Michi needs to get a podium for us to be able to do that particular celebration. But there we are, up to the point we go then towards the end of this lap into Lance Stroll corner, and then as we go up and through onto that final DRS straight, then before we then come up to the start-finish straights once more at the end of all this run here. Looks as though he's gone for that sort of wider line, wider entry into this back straight here. Maybe will have lost themselves just that little bit of time as a result of that, instead of sticking to the left-hand side. And now then, as we go down the start-finish straight, Michi Hoyer then will open up the DRS now, taking the shortest line possible, and up the line he goes. It's only P10 for the time being. He's going to need to go again. Yeah,
and currently set in behind. I know we've got a big group of Boosler fans that have just come in and joined the chat. A big warm welcome to you guys. He is currently in the top 10 in the Red Bull, so looking exceptionally strong right now in the pits. But no doubt we'll see him again later on. Infratix still at the very back of the field, propping up the entire order along with B-Roy. So those are the two cars that are currently situated at the bottom of the timing tower, propping up the rest of the order. Payer as well on an outlap. So another McLaren looking to finish strong and finish fast. In comes Infratix across the line, goes fifth fastest with a 1:27.405. Still with a lot of work to do to close up to the likes of M-Sky-Z, but Payer on his outlap and has now got soft tyres on. Now usually from Payer we see the medium tyres towards the end of the session because he likes to save a set, but this time this is a definite message being sent from Payer. We need to commit to the soft tyres.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. And just on Fabio briefly, before we see Payer start their full flying lap here, they are a driver who's been very punchy recently in terms of their words coming into this one, because there have been claims by Fabio that they're going to be on the podium come the end of this race, so they may well be one to watch out for, and if not, then one that we can point and laugh at in a completely innocent sort of a way. But as it is then, down towards turn number one, not with a Ferrari, but instead with a McLaren, as Payer starts out their lap. Through the first couple of corners they go then, and ooh, the back end there just a little bit squirmy, bit squirrely underneath them as they then head down towards the left-hander and up into the tight twisty parts to finish out the final part of the first sector here, George.
Yeah, Payer now on a lap, and he needs to bring his absolute best here, his A-game required, because we're coming down to the final 3 minutes of this session around this circuit that broke ground back in March of 2021. Payer looking to advance his charge in a McLaren that has brought him so many good moments and so many points as well through the course of this series, most notably back at the fan-voted track where we went to Monaco. He managed to achieve 12 points on that occasion, within a follow-up trip to Austria where he did pick up 12, but a few mistakes creeping in, and it's costing Payer at this stage as the yellow flags erupt, and Noiguera has retired from the session, but I think he's pretty safe up in fourth place as now he makes his way through the fast, tricky left and right, and he's going to hustle his way through the final sector now. Payer finding, of course, green as you'd expect, given the fact that he hasn't yet laid down, shall we say, necessarily a valid lap time that you'd expect to really attack the top end, but he has made personal improvements in Sector 1 and Sector 2, a 32.128 in the first sector with a 28.426 in Sector 2. Is it enough for Payer? It is enough for the top 10, goes 10th fastest, ahead of one Alex Gillen, but there are plenty of other cars out and out laps, and some even on fast laps.
Absolutely, one of them is Mr. Dale, who's on our screens right now, heading down towards the end of the first sector. Let's see how they're doing versus their previous personal best. 1.7 seconds up. You'd have to imagine it would be a time of that sort of magnitude because, of course, their last lap was set on a set of intermediate tyres in dry conditions. So, as it is then, Mr. Dale's going to continue on at this point in time. He's going to push on through these next few corners. It's all about how close you dare in terms of getting to the walls around this circuit, like any street circuit, of course. And going through some of these apexes here, I can say that he's a little bit further away from those walls than we've seen with other drivers. Let's just see, though, as we come to the end of the second sector, now 2.7 seconds up on their fastest lap, sorry. And so that's then looking at them now getting into the 29s, 28 sort of era. So they need a similar improvement in this final sector. But of course, not much in the way of ways you can improve down here. It's essentially one great big straight line, one great big braking zone, and I'm tripping over my words as he comes out the final turn. Then he's going to get a lovely toe here down the start-finish straight to finish out the lap whilst others are starting theirs. And across the line goes Mr. Dale in 14th. He's right there on the bubble.
Yeah, the team from Faenza getting useful toe from the team from Maranello. Tiamat Marduk, incidentally, now last of the cars that have laid out times on the board, and he is on intermediate tyres. There will not be a run into Q2, but needs a sensational lap here at the end of Q1 on intermediates to potentially take home some more points here, Dan.
Absolutely, yep, potentially more points in the offering here. And as we watch then, as Benjamin Daly makes his way through, 131.9 so far, so it's the slowest of all the times that have been put on the board. B-Roy still needs to set a valid lap at some point at the moment. We've just seen Tom jump up the order as well, so that's all good as far as they're concerned. But with Mr. Daly then, through and up now into this fast, high-speed section of the circuit where you've got to keep on going now and push all the way to the end of the lap. And as it is at this point in time, then we've got that Ferrari singing its way down the back straight before we then get into that braking zone. Oh, I tell you what, actually, Ben is on intermediate tyres. I only just noticed that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The intermediate tyres obviously going towards the points factor that we might have been looking at, but he has invalidated and the energy light is flashing on the back. But someone who is improving is ARS Boostler, who has gone green in the first two sectors, 32.117, 28.078. The Red Bull looking to give him wings as Boostler gets an almighty boost into the top 5, so he will be safely making his way into Q2, but there are a few names in there. Who's going to join Tiamat Marduk out of the session? B-Roy will. Can El Taco Man survive? He can. Go 7th fastest here at this point. Meraki, last season's champion, now in the drop zone as well. Mr. Dale is also in the drop zone. Meraki out of the session as well. He'll be started towards the back. He's on intermediate tyres as well. So joining Tiamat Marduk, same ideas, same mentality. That guy Vince is out of the session as well. And Mr. Dale, 16th as he crosses the line, will not be persevering into Q2. Michi Hoyer, by the skin of his teeth, will indeed go through, along with Alex Gillen, Peya, JD Devil Noob, and Zafso and GB68 in the top half of the bottom 10. And then at the very top, it's M Sky Z, once again flexing that one-lap pace down the Gilligan, and that proves to be the difference maker still here at the very end of the season.
Absolutely, yeah, that one time, all that was needed, as it turns out, to get themselves out there and at the top of the standings. 126.8 so far to lead the way from then El Rey Guri and then Rasin Chai, Tom 97 and Boostler down in P5 as well. So a very good qualifying session from all concerned, I think, but unfortunately, as we saw for some in that group there, in particular Mr. Dale as well, managing to improve, but only up to 14th initially, then tumbled down just those 2 positions to then find themselves outside the top 15. That's then all that she wrote there for them, sadly. But there's got to be a winner and there's got to be a loser in sports. So, as it is then, Mr. Dale, that guy Vince, Meraki, Tiamat Marduk, and then B-Roy are all out at the beginning of this session. So into Q2 we will go then, and that means Michi Hoyer has the opportunity to now get themselves a little bit higher up the order than what we've seen from them in this first Q1 session here.
Absolutely right. Michi Hoyer just getting through, and obviously we'll be delighted with that, because now that means a Q2 appearance, which will go a long way. And another driver to keep an eye on as well, El Rey Guri. What a performance in his Phoenix return back to the F1 Creator Series, currently sitting top 5 in the championship and now 2nd fastest here on the board this time. M Sky Z fastest though with a 126.817 ahead of El Rey Guri in 2nd place. Rasin Chai in 3rd. So the top 2 in the championship, they're in the top 3 here in Q1. We've got Tom 97 in 4th. ARS Boostler, what an appearance as well. P5 Naguera in 6th. We have El Taco Man 7th, Infratic in 8th. We've got Tom in 9th. GB68 10th. Zafso in 11th. JD Devil Noob in 12th. Peya in 13th, Alex Gillen 14th, Michi Hoyer in 15th. We do, however, lose Mr. Dale, that guy Vince, Meraki, Tiamat Marduk, and B-Roy. So there we go. In terms of the Inters poll, we will, of course, be clarifying that one very, very shortly. But obviously, looking at the current scenes right now, in terms of what's going on out on track, a truly stellar performance once again from M Sky Z at the very head of the table, managing to achieve that hellacious P1. And again, a great determination there just to certainly put that on display, and at the same time put some of those demons to bed. This is a title fight. Maybe throw in a few mind games. Hey, I'm the quickest. Scott, that's the right way to start, right?
It is, because I was actually speaking to Razin as well during that one, and he's not actually the most confident in Jeddah, which I find a bit strange. But again, he is one of these people that, you know, can tell you, oh, I'm rubbish at this track, and still go a second faster for life. One of those drivers, so I don't know if we can hold too much merit to it, but if he's right, this could be really interesting.
It certainly could be. And what does this send to Rasin Chai, Dan? If there is that trepidatiousness, that sort of little bit of nerves starting to creep in, I'm not so sure about this track, and yet you see M-Sky-Z, your championship contender, who, you know, whilst obviously 13 points sounds like a lot, you know, at the core niche, certain things can happen that can definitely throw a spanner in the works. Has Rasin got every right to be concerned here?
He does. I mean, it's, you know, any concern is valid concern, really, at this point. They've not mathematically eliminated the possibility of someone else taking the championship here, so a bit of nerves is maybe a good thing. But then again, nerves and nervousness is just, this is where we get to, Dan gets deep on the broadcast now, because if you just think about it, in terms of a chemical reaction in your body, nervousness and excitement are the same thing. It's just how you interpret it as the end user. So therefore, we should say that Rasin's not nervous, he's excited. That's what's going on.
Well, we can confirm that Meraki got the intermediate tyre pole, so that's 5 intermediate tyre poles this season. So whilst obviously, Scott, it wasn't necessarily the positioning for Q2 that was at the top of his priorities, at this point, obviously, looking at this, Scott, I mean, with him achieving what he has done, obviously through the course of this season, championship win is obviously not on his mindset, otherwise he'd be qualifying a lot higher and taking that probably a little more seriously. But, I mean, looking forwards, I suppose he can take a lot of solace out of the fact that he was at least fastest on intermediate tyres?
Yeah, exactly, and we alluded to this either last week or before, is that if Meraki did take it a little bit more seriously in these qualifyings, then he would be an actual real contender, and he shows this. He's very, very fast. I feel like he's challenging himself to different and when he kind of finally decides, like, okay, I'm going to go for this championship again, I think he's going to be one to watch.
Yeah, I think so. He has every chance. I mean, we've seen great stuff from Meraki in the past, and we look back at the Mystery GP where he did manage to take P2, again doing that last to first type scenario, and then of course back at Monza at the Temple of Speed where he finished P3. I mean, whilst these last to firsts are quite interesting and sometimes quite dynamic, I'm sure they look great on a stream, but in terms of a championship here in this sense, Dan, is he letting himself down a little bit, do you think?
You mean Meraki, of course?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that it's, I don't know, it depends really on in terms of your perspective, because, you know, the Creator Series is here ultimately to make content, and so to be able to come from the back every single race and then be able to do reasonably well as a result of all that is very, very good. And so, you know, it's good content as well to be able to see more overtakes rather than qualify at the front, disappear off into the distance and never be seen again. So in that perspective, it's, you know, you could say that from a championship, from a sporting perspective, yes, of course, they are missing out. But in terms of from a content perspective, I think actually they may be getting a better deal than all the rest of the content creators this season, to be perfectly honest with you.
I mean, he's not necessarily out of the championship yet. He comes into this one with, you know, 21 points behind the leader. He's just taken intermediate pole. I mean, who's to say that Rasin Chai and M-Sky-Z don't bottle the championship as Zafson now comes across the line on softs, 27.629. No doubt the used softs being used this time. But going back to what I was saying, if Rasin Chai and M-Sky-Z were to have a nightmare out there, essentially bin the race, Meraki goes on to win it, he would then be crowned champion in what would probably be the most spectacular and truly immeasurable championship win of all time in the Creator Series.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly amongst them, wouldn't it? It would also be the first two-time champion if Meraki was able to go ahead and do that. So it's, I mean, there's certainly things to be thought about here and things to be fought for, but I have a sneaking suspicion that our championship protagonists outside of Jake will be able to put in a good enough showing where if he is going to win, it's going to require an enormous mistake from them.
Certainly will do. Alex Gillen, in the meantime, of course, we did see him cross the line at 126.736. which is somewhat of a flex. MSkyZ could only pull off a 127.040, but naturally we have seen quite a few of the drivers adopting that used set of tyres to get the session started. Rasin Chaya, though, on an outlap and looking to perhaps unseat MSkyZ in the initial, just to send a clear message as the cars now go around looking for track space. Yellow flags are out because of a few slow runners dotted around the circuit, as now Rasin slows down to the inside, obviously trying to find himself some clear space, some clear air, so he can muster up his best time that he can. And now rounding the next left here on this outlap, he'll then make his way through the next portion of the circuit. Big opportunity here for Rasin Chai to bring home big points, and we hark back as well to some of the great teammates he has had. Remember that formidable Alpine pairing of Tom and Rasin, who in previous years looked extraordinarily strong, Dan.
Yeah, incredibly strong. And, you know, when you've got all of these potential, you know, fights that could be going on here, teammates could be working together, people could be fighting one another, there could be all sorts of things going on that add to the various different permutations of this one. I think it's an interesting thing to think about here. It's also interesting looking at the previous session in terms of tyre usage. Now, we did see that a lot of drivers made it through into this session by using just one dry tyre. There were others, though, who did use more than one, and so I'm wondering what's going to happen there as far as they're concerned. Now, right here, what we can see, of course, is we've got Tom on a set of intermediate tyres, when, of course, the Inters pole, I believe, is all sorted now. That's only eligible in Q1. So, question there is then, why are they doing that? And what benefit could come from that? I mean, obviously, there's a sighter lap, I suppose you could say, but with less and less time available in the session, it might be a foolish thing to do, some could say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of it comes from confidence, but he's not even setting the lap here, so obviously not looking for that delta as he now comes into box and will no doubt, I'm sure, put on a set of slick tyres. We've got quite a few other cars out and about. El Guri as well out on an outlap, as well as the McLaren of Pay, who currently sits in P9. Rasin Chai now on his fast run, looking to put in place a measure that I'm sure will test the limits of MSkyZ, who currently sits in second place, as we now see a 31.890 registered in that first sector here, this time by Rasin Chai, who'll be looking no doubt for that second victory this season to close out the title race as he now bursts through the rights and lefts here in this very slalom orientated circuit, coming out of turn 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. It then takes you through towards turn 13, where you do have the hairpin, and then you have the second half of the circuit, which takes you through yet another slalom, including this one in particular, very fast-paced, coming out of turns 15, 16 and 17, and then hurtling towards turn 19, 20, where he'll then thread the car through these specific bends and then in towards yet another slalom, and then a loop around the final hairpin at turn 27, as he now looks to open up the door, squeezing the throttle ever so as he now opens up the rear wing. The DRS powering now him down across the line, goes second fastest ahead now of MSkyZ, and now Rasin Chai just in behind Alex Gillen. Makes me think as well that Gillen might be on a newer set of tyres up at the very front. Michi Hoyer registers a 128.426, but Rasin Chai a 126.974 and goes faster than MSkyZ.
Absolutely, yeah. Very, very interesting way in which we're seeing these times starting to come out. Now we're seeing also Alex Gillen retiring from this session as they get themselves just sat in the pit lane. They're not intending to go out there onto the track one more time, so they've used just that one set of tyres, and they've thought to themselves, you know what, that's enough for me. And so as far as they're concerned, then we've got Infratic now over the line to well, I think finishing a lap there, but a lap that is clearly not counted due to track limits. So they sit still plumb last at this stage.
Yeah, Noiguera showing some really good pace as well, a 31.802 in the first sector, 27.775 as well in sector 2 at this stage. Sorry, sector 1 was the 31.802, and looking really strong as he now puts the foot to the floor once again. El Guri currently sitting in 11th fastest here for the Sauber team. Noiguera, no doubt, leaving nothing to chance. 126.686 in his first run, and that's the shades that we have seen from Noiguera heading through this campaign. It has happened for him a few times now as Peya also comes across the line and joins his teammate 4th and 5th now. They're dressed up in papaya, with MSkyZ still in 4th and Peya now in 5th spot. So GB68 now down to 6th with his teammate Zafso. So we've got a string of cars that have teammates bound together between McLaren, Aston and Haas further down too, as we now see, as we witness Zafso, our Season 1 champion, who is now looking to try and muster his way into Q3 again. Always great to see Safso on the grid, because at the end of the day, he's pure rock and roll.
He certainly is. Rockstar. I love Safso to bits, and I'll make no bones about that. Or maybe one bone or two later on, who knows. But in terms of what we're seeing with them then, hopefully they'll be able to get themselves through into Q3 rather, with little difficulties whatsoever. And then it's been a very interesting thing to see when it comes to Safso and GB working together at this point in time, and making their way through this season, putting together a good constructors' effort in the early part of the season. Then luck hasn't really gone their way, so you never know, maybe at this final event of the season they will be able to put something together. On your screens right now, of course, is Boostler, and they're getting themselves around this Jeddah Corniche circuit until they don't, and they go straight on off of the circuit there. And so that then is going to be an invalidated lap time, which means they're going to need something of a miracle here, as we have very little precious time remaining until the drivers are then done with this session. So they're going to need to box, get a new set of tyres on quickly, and go once more. We've got now Tom on the screen as we come through the final corner here, George.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Boostler's time has been invalidated. I'm looking at the screens and the timings, and it looks like it might have just registered. It might not have registered at all, as Tom comes across the line and puts together a 1:26.972. So he does have the opportunity here, Boostler, and indeed he did. He's gone 6th fastest, so an improvement for Boostler. Has invalidated his cooldown run, though, by the looks of it, as he makes his way around the first sector and looking to come straight back into the pits as soon as he can. But managing to achieve a 6th fastest time, because he was in P10, and has now since found a little extra here in this very late stage. We'll need to get back to the pits as soon as possible, though, because we are coming down into the final 3 minutes, and time is running out. El Taco Man, though, coming to the end of his outlap very shortly, will then also be sending it down through towards turn 1. Tom 97 out on track as well, yet to nestle in a time. And look at those in the bottom 3. El Ray Guri, Tom 97 in Fratic. All 3 of them have yet to set a time whatsoever here in Q2. So now the pressure's on in these dire stages here at this stage, Dan, and the pressure could not be higher.
No, not higher at all. And at this point then, you know, if they're going to be able to mount a challenge for victory, as they've been threatening to do, then we could end up seeing them maybe making this mistake here. We'll have to wait and see, of course, but they are not alone necessarily in terms of that positioning. We've got El Ray also with no time on the board. Infratic, no time on the board either. And so this is going to be do or die for an awful lot of these drivers then, as we see Tom get started on their lap.
Yep, they certainly are. Tom 97 now, the next to make his way through turns 1 and turns 2. And then straight on the throttle again as he looks to just spin the wheel ever so slightly to find the grip and find the traction, as he now hurtles up through towards this next left and right. And of course, there you can see him there in the bottom right-hand corner, just looking to get a good measure of the Corniche circuit. So fast-paced. Of course, as we said, witnessing an incredible performance from one young Ollie Behrman in yesterday's Grand Prix. But now Tom 97 through towards this next left. Tom Martinez, as many of you will know, just a little tap of the wall there. Will that certainly exacerbate his issues come the end of the lap? There was a little delicate tap of the barrier. Has that cost him any significant delta as he heads through the first sector into sector 2 proper now, as he now makes his way down through towards yet another far section? Again, the flag's waving. No doubt a little bit of traffic that currently lies in wait in front of him. There's a Ferrari that's just waiting to go faster once again. That could be Fabio, in fact, because he indeed is on his outlap as well, as now Tom 97 puts the throttle down. DRS now opens up here. M-Sky Z retires from the session in P5, obviously thinking he's safe at this stage. And I will say this, it's only a 1:27 for M-Sky Z. Is that a smart decision? As now Tom 97 comes out to the final bend at turn 27, up through towards the line, and he's going to be looking for something special. Just about gets through into P9, and his face says it all. Has he managed to obtain safety? Because I would argue that he is still in jeopardy here, Dan.
I think so. I think Safso could improve here. I think the Taco Man could improve too. We could also see El Ray very easily get up into the top 10 there, in Fratic too. So I think Tom 97 has actually messed it up here. I think that's them out of qualifying come the end of this session, but we'll have to wait and see. Round the final corner comes El Taco Man. A little bit of oversteer there. You can see the correction on the steering wheel as he now heads for the line. And will this be enough? I think it may not be. No, not quite. P10. And by just 0.2 exactly of a second, Tom 97 is safe from them. Michi Hoyer having an absolute horrible time going through the fast, high-speed section there on the exit of Last Stroll Corner. And as we then bring up their camera to have a look at them in their final race then, as they come through that final turn right now, very wide of the apex, you'd have to say there, and they know it as well. You can see the disappointment on their face. And as they come up towards the line then, it is an improvement, but not enough. It is 11th place for Michi Hoyer. And you have to say there, George, if not for those incidents that we saw on camera, then that could well have been a lap that would have displaced Tom 97.
It would have no doubted that he was purple in the first sector as well, so no doubt feeling a little worse for wear. JD Devilnoob making mistakes as well. We saw Tom 97 tapping the wall, and this time JD Devilnoob did exactly the same. Infratic now making his way out of the final hairpin as well out of turn 27. He'll be looking to muster his first time here in the session. Very late on, goes third fastest. Infratic now derailing potentially Tom 97, and that leaves JD Devilnoob. What about El Rey Guri as well, who's also looking to find something here in this late stage? JD Devilnoob now hurtling out. Personal improvements in the first sector, but an error in sector 2 was not an improvement here in this very lap. He will not improve from 14th, but El Rey Guri to knock out Tom 97 in this late stage. Here with green in the first 2 sectors, he's P4. Tom 97 out of qualifying. Pay is coming in the pits. Absolutely extraordinary. As now Zafso goes 12th fastest and pushes El Taco Man, Michi Hoyer and JD Devilnoob down a place. But what a session. Wow, incredible lap from Infratic. Where did that 126.867 come from?
I tell you what, we were having a moment earlier on talking about whether or not he was going to be someone that we laugh at or not, and certainly no one's laughing now with Infratic up in third place there in Q2. That was a great lap from the Ferrari driver. Let's wait and see if they can then capitalize on that into the last part of qualifying, and then, of course, in the race itself.
Well, Infratic, what a display. Noguera, though, going fastest here in Q2. What a sensational session for the Alfa Romeo Sauber team. They've got a driver in P1. They've got a driver in P4. Rasin Chai also in the mix. Alex Gillen showing more promise this time around. After barely getting through out of Q1, this time he solidifies his place in the top 2 in Q2. And, of course, we do have El Taco Man down there now getting himself addressed by his pit bay. Let's take you through as well the order of this sensational Q2. Of course, his disappointment from Michi Hoyer in this case. He will not be progressing into Q3, but let's take you through from Ps1 to Ps10. We do have Noguera, who is the fastest man with that 126.686. And then further down, Alex Gillen in second, Infratic in P3, El Rey Guri in P4, Rasin Chai in 5th, Tom making it through in 6th, with M-Sky-Z in 7th. Not necessarily an A-list performance from M-Sky-Z, but nevertheless, it's only Q2. He'll save his best for Q3, I'm sure. ARS Boosler, what a performance as well. P8, he's in the top 10. He's heading through to the pole shootout with Peya in 9th, GB68 just making it through in 10th as well. But we are going to lose some huge shocks, it has to be said. Tom 97 out here in P11. We will, of course, take you through the remaining eliminees, but P14 as well for Michi Hoyer, which is going to hurt. We did lose Safso as well, P12, El Taco Man in 13th spot. And right at the very bottom of them all was JD Devilnoob, who will not be progressing through to Q3. So that wraps things up here in this Q2 session. A truly dynamite performance from Fabio. I just want to digest that, Scott, because that's not form that we have necessarily seen from him ever since the Creator Series started a small matter of a number of seasons ago. Of course, we've had quite a few on this very same game cycle, but wow, what a performance from the Scuderia Ferrari. We know Fabio's capable of some really crazy things, and I'm not just talking about his racing and qualifying performances. If you've seen some of his TikToks, outrageous. But yeah, I just want to say, a true measure of the man. P3 here in this Q2 session. I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, and I was actually on board with quite a lot of that Q2 with Fabio, because I thought he was one to watch. His first lap when he was on used tyres, he invalidated it halfway through, and a lot of other drivers would maybe just go back into the pit and reset themselves. But what he decided to do is he finished the lap, so he got that delta. So he had that delta, that top right corner of the screen. Really mess with your brain. It's in red during your final lap, but if you're doing well and it's in green, it really, really helps him. And I watched his final lap and he had that delta. He was 1.5 seconds up. He was feeling good. The chat was feeling good. Everyone was just like, yes, this is the lap. And then there you go. Q3. So it's like a bit of testament to Fabio there, you know. Pratic, a lot of people could have just went back into the pit and had to do that final lap with no guidance of how fast you've been.
Yeah, I mean, another driver I want to talk about, obviously Nogueira, someone who has certainly shown once again how good he really is. I mean, going fastest in that Q2 session was brilliant. And we've got to bear in mind that he is probably, when he's racing, one of the most consistent finishers, I think, in the championship as well. Only finished outside the points twice in the occasions that he's raced, only missing 2 races through the course of the campaign. I mean, Dan, is this someone who has yet to find or nurture his ability, is yet to show what he's truly capable of? Because I personally think that Nogueira is a real outside chance here for a sensational result here at the Corniche.
Could be. You know, we've got to wait and see as to whether it was a one-hit wonder or not, and ultimately have a look at their progress in this Q3 session. Of course, this is where everyone's going to start turning up. This is where everyone has been saving their tires so they can do multiple big attack runs and things like that. And so, you know, maybe at that point, when everyone else takes a step forward, we'll then have to see, will Nogueira be able to do the same thing? Will they be able to keep in step with everybody else and potentially go for that pole? If they can finish even in the top 5, I think that would be a great result in qualifying to then set them up for the race. But then, of course, the other thing to consider is, well, after we've then had a look at, who is in charge as far as, qualifying order is concerned, we've then also got to worry about, will that then translate into race performance? Because if you set a car up to do well in qualifying, typically you're going to be carrying more downforce than you actually need or want in the race. And so we'll have to wait and see if that is the case for those who do well in this qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely. GB68 now making his way down through towards turn 1, now turning that out lap now into a fast lap as he now makes his way in towards turns 1 and 2 here in Q3. So he'll be the first car to set a lap, first driver to set a lap here in this session, as he now hurtles through towards turns 3 and turns 4. Again, somewhat of a blind corner. You've got to be very cautious when it comes to throttle application through this first sector. It is oh so tricky, but we do love the racing here at the Corniche. Ever so competitive, and we have, of course, seen since its opening back on the 3rd of December 2021, over 2 years ago now. The design, of course, brought to us by Carsten Tilke, who is, of course, the son of the famous Hermann Tilke, responsible for many of the great race circuits that we have witnessed in Formula One over the years. GB now managing to muster in a 32.143, and of course around this track littered with corners, 27 of them in total, and it really does produce a lottery scenario when it comes to, shall we say, superb timed laps. And here in qualifying, nothing better than having a lottery where it comes to Q3 and a pole shootout, as we now ride on board here with GB68 heading through the middle into the latter sector. We're going to take a look at his camera view, looking ever so composed, looking in pretty right form. What I will say though is that he's just had his first sector fastest time taken away from him by Alex Gillen. So now the Aston Martin squeezes the throttle once again, heading out of the final corner, and will now beckon his way down towards the start-finish line. Will go fastest, no doubt, with a 1:27.709. Certainly won't be the fastest time we see today, but look at Alex Gillen right now. Purple in the first 2 sectors, so already negating GB's work here this time down.
Absolutely, yeah, and 27.7, I mean, it's quick, but it's I would say that we're going to see better time there. We've got Boostler going across, and immediately, yep, they bring that true. 27.5 for Boostler to go top of the timesheets for the moment. Then Rasin Chai goes even further with a 27.4. Let's see now with Alex Gillen, it's a 26.3. Crikey dingo, that is a whole second quicker than what we've seen for Rasin Chai there.
Well, absolutely mega lap there. 26.3 is one of the fastest times we've seen regardless. But M-Sky Z hold the phone. Purple in the first sector with a 31.598. This could be a blistering lap here from M-Sky Z, the Frenchman who is bidding to become the title holder here this campaign. Of course, he's got only one task, and that is to beat Rasin Chai. If he can make that happen right from the get-go here in qualifying, that could send a clear message. He's gone purple again in the second sector at 27 to what looks to be 7.96, and now needs a huge run heading out to the final hairpin at turn 27. Can he topple Alex Gillen with a mega time here at the Jeddah Corniche? He can with a 1:26.362. Papaya Singh here as the McLaren hits the front here in the shootout in Q3. Sensational, Dan.
Absolutely brilliant, yeah, to see them that. That was brilliant. You could see on the back straight in particular, teamwork very much in play there with Peya making sure they gave that extra few kilometers an hour to MSkyZ, and of course in doing so, judging by the gap being just about that 300ths of a second, you would have to say that that assistance given by Peya was the difference.
Yeah, it certainly was the difference maker. And I tell you what, look at the gap. 32 thousandths separating MSkyZ and Alex Gillen. Gillen, though, still holds the purple third sector, which I think is important to note. So Gillen's still finding something on MSkyZ, even in this late stage. Now, Peya has got a little bit of traffic in front, but by the looks of it, I think he's going to be looking for that very vital toe, and indeed SkyZ providing that toe here at this point, and obviously Peya taking full advantage. The team interplay in great display here for both Peya and MSkyZ. So harmonious between the two as Peya looks to improve on what has already been some blistering performances throughout the course of this season. Again, someone who has finished regularly in the points, and we'll be looking to do very much the same here this time around. We look back at the fan-voted track at Monaco, we alluded to it, and the Austrian race, where he was able to pull up some trees and bring home some points. He'll be looking now to bring home an advanced qualifying position here, and goes P5 with a little help from his friend MSkyZ. Goes ahead of Boosler. Infratic, though, out on the lap, but he's invalidated keenly enough, so he's coming under some real pressure in this late stage.
Yeah, lots and lots of pressure all being dished around at this point in time. We've got Noguera down there in P9 at the moment. Tom here on a very, very slow initial run of 135.6. No way of getting any help from their teammate now, as of course they were knocked out. They're also on intermediate tyres, so I don't know why we're looking at them. But there we go. Let's just go ahead and look away from them. We've got Peya currently on an in-lap and Infratic as well, so let's at least look at them because they'll look better on a set of soft tyres instead of inters. But as it is then, we've got Peya on that in-lap now, then everybody else in the pits at the moment. We've got Boosler and GB68 all on out-laps as well, so they've decided to go for that running in the gap, and right there on cue is Boosler coming on through. Now let's watch and see then as they make their way around, and whether or not this is going to improve their position or improve their time come the end of the lap that will be coming up shortly.
Yeah, Boosler looking to now lay down a faster time. Of course, there's an abundance of fans here. Now, MSkyZ damaged my wing, but still on a good run. So despite the damaged front wing, able to muster in a supreme time like he did. Now, that is absolutely sensational from MSkyZ. And I know we speak a lot about him and how truly exceptional he has been in the Creator Series. Looking back at some of the results, not to mention the 2 podiums, well, more than 2 podiums. He's achieved 4 podiums through the campaign this season, but 2 P2s, of course, back at the Mystery Race and Austria, achieving P3 back at Monaco. Or should I say, I'm looking at Razin's results, actually. I do apologize, everybody. Razin's going to kill me for that. But yeah, looking at this, I mean, obviously a race winner once before. He has indeed, achieved 2 P2s. In fact, the P2 was at Monaco, and then, of course, did achieve P2 back at Bahrain last time out. And of course, a trip to the Algarve, where he finished 3rd at the Portuguese circuit, but now has a great chance. And after setting that time on a broken front wing, Dan, that's incredible.
Very, very good indeed. Yeah, very, very good. And so the fact that it was still 300ths of a second ahead of Alex Gillen, who we all know is very, very quick, that just goes to show the amount of pace that they've got underneath them, and perhaps the underlying pace that they could go even faster still. Someone who is going faster is Boosler, who's now 1.9 tenths up on their personal best. That would then sit them somewhere in the region of 4th, possibly, no, 4th place at this point in time. So they're going to need to find an awful lot more if they're going to be able to get this one into the top 3. But as it is then, it's looking pretty good at this stage for the Red Bull driver. Though that being said, a little bit of blockage maybe from the McLaren there as they come on through. Of course, there aren't any penalties for impeding or anything like that in the Creator Series. And then, a little bit of a slide there coming out of the Lance Stroll corner. And so as they come up and round the last part of the lap now, up towards that final corner, I think one question that is lingering in my mind, just going back to MSkyZ, is of course what we've pointed out on previous broadcasts. They tend to set their best Q3 time on their first run and don't tend to improve on their second. So as we watch to the line here for whether or not Boosler improves, and they do, P4 for them, and very close to El Reguri's run. Very, very good improvement in the last sector there for them, as GB68 is improving in a big way as well. I think that's something that we've got to consider for MSkyZ, as they have just begun their final fast lap. We'll stick with GB for the time being, but yeah, let's keep an eye on what they're able to do.
Yeah, GB68 making his way around the final corner. I do want to say that Rasin Chai has just managed to enlist a purple first sector with a 31.576. GB goes 5th fastest. Not enough to topple Boostler. I mean, who needs DRS when you've got Boostler? As we're now seeing Rasin Chai with his 31.576 now making his way through sector 2 in the 57s already as it creeps into the 59s and is finding nearly 9/10 of a second. This is truly groundbreaking from the Black Arrow as it now looks to descend through the final sector here at Saudi Arabia. A great opportunity for the championship leader, fresh from victory at the sands of Bahrain, now looking to the sands of Jeddah to bring home yet another stellar result on what could be a start to bringing back-to-back pole positions in the Creator Series. No, only 3rd fastest, cannot dispute M-Sky-Z at the front. 3 purple sectors between the top 3 in the timing tower, and M-Sky-Z, purple in the first sector, not quite though, improving enough in sector 2.
No, it looks as though they were a couple of seconds off, so they've had a big mistake somewhere. They've abandoned the lap, you can see here, and so even if they do come across the line, it's not going to be to improve their time, certainly not with how it is right now. They could maybe be attempting a second go here on the same set of tyres. Now, will they have enough ERS available to do that? No, they've decided to, at the last minute, take an unorthodox entry into the pit lane.
Yeah, a little bit of an unorthodox one. Alex Gillen, though, back out on track. Of course, does hold the fastest 3rd sector time, so he'll be looking to try and bring in his absolute best at the very last moment. And if there's anyone who can do it, it's this man. It certainly is Alex Gillen, who has managed to prevail time and time again in the Creator Series in the past. And might I remind you, of course, his initial time was actually set much earlier in the session. I can tell you he's found 14 thousandths already in this first sector, so truly a brilliant start to sector 1 as he now looks to try and find a little more in sector 2, donning the colours of the AlphaTauri team that has now since witnessed a slight rebrand and also a fresh coat of paint, hailing more back to their Toro Rosso years, as we now see Alex Gillen making his way through sector 2 now. Needs to try and extract at least something in these dire stages, of course coming through the course of this championship, missing the first 3 rounds, but then taking victory on his return, along with Tiamat Marduk. Both of them were actually away for the first 3 rounds, but both came back and took Ps 1 and 2 back at Monza at the Temple of Speed. And since then, 1 solitary podium to boot for Alex Gillen, but is now looking to come back, this time at Jeddah. And now what I will say is Noiguera has just taken the purple first sector, but can Gillen improve? He can't beat M-Sky-Z's time, but Noiguera might be able to. A 31.497 in the first sector is indeed purple. Now he's right at the tail end of the field. He's propping up the order, but he won't be for too much longer if he can muster in a true burner of a lap here in sector 3. Goes fastest with a brilliant 126.303, 59 thousandths clear of M-Sky-Z, and at the very death, he has stolen pole in the final race here in the Creator Series.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's a great, great lap. And 600ths to the good as well. Not exactly the most comfortable of gaps, you must be said, but it's still very, very good regardless. We've also got then, of course, M-Sky-Z, Elray Guri, Alex Gillen, all there within a 10th of a second of pole as well. So it was oh so close. But to round it all off, then it is Noguera on pole position. Then M-Sky-Z, Elray Guri, Alex Gillen, Infratic, Rasin Chai, Perya, Tom, ARS Boostler, and then, of course, GB68 rounds out the Q3 field as the only driver to set their fastest time as a 1:27.
Yeah, still a vastly impressive performance as well from what looks to be Infratic, managing to get a top 5 in Q3 as well. But Scott, we've got to talk about that pole lap. Truly groundbreaking. I mean, managing to find 59 thousandths against M-Sky-Z. Not many drivers have been able to do that this season. And also at the same time, for Noiguera, he's almost been on that journey, isn't he? Journey, trying to find himself here in this championship. And I would argue that finally he's managed to get himself into a position where he is able to sort of show what he can do. I mean, is this the perfect Noiguera circuit?
Yeah, he absolutely nailed that. Obviously, amazing driving, amazing times. Like all of the sort of top 4 left, quite incredible. When the final rounds and they're going to be that close. The one thing I will say is, and if I can take control of the stream for a second, we'll go to the clip book. This is what M-Sky-Z done. This was unfortunate. It's almost like what could have been what could have been. We've got 8 minutes left of the session. This was the lap that he really, really nailed it. He gets the apex right, but when he's coming out, boom, gets that little bit of damage. He has nearly half a track left, living with that damage. Did that cost him? Did that cost him that 10th that was maybe going to be for pole? I think he'll be kicking himself for that.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Scott. It definitely looked like there was some issues, and even though he was able to put that lap, he did actually make us aware of it, of course, in the driver's comments. Of course, we had the team radio come up, and he made us certainly aware that there were some challenges, but was still able to take P1 at the time, which was unreal. But Dan, I mean, in terms of impressive performances, I mean, we've looked at Noigueira before. He has shown little fits and starts of brilliance, but we've never really seen that consistency or that, should we say, throughout a whole lap. But I would argue that this is probably his best qualifying performance. Well, it is his best qualifying performance of the season.
It certainly is, yeah. 100% credit goes to them, really, because that was a mega lap. Really, really good. Just the fact that they were able to hook that up once before, then, you know, I'm going to do it again. And away they go. And they managed to hook it up once more in Q3 instead of Q2 this time. So, yeah, really, really impressive work from them. And I would, you know, hats off, very much so, in full sort of Niki Lauda style. In celebration of that, because that was a great lap.
It certainly was a great lap, and now you can look ahead, obviously, to starting on the front row of the grid, but now he's got the issue of keeping MSkyZ in behind, which in the opening lap is going to be very, very difficult. We know how fast he is. Obviously, it's strategy dependent. No risks of rain at Jeddah, though I am getting on my telemetry 2% chance, so anything's possible. But still, at the end of the day, Scott, you know, how tough is it going to be for someone such as Noigueira to keep a car in behind going into turn 1 with the type of driver MSkyZ truly is?
Yeah, exactly. He's going to need to get off the start as quick as he can. Because if you can be safe for that turn 1, turn 2, then what you might find is the 10 cars and sort of mid-spec slow. And he might even see himself just getting right off away from DRS before we're considering that. Or doesn't get the good start. MSkyZ gets in there. Everyone slows down a lot, and there might be like it's Jeddah, it's the circuit. It's quite crazy, or it can be very civil. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely look forward to seeing who comes out on top. Of course, you've got the compounds there on the left-hand side, majority medium tyres with a sprinkling of softs and hards as well. Noigueira on the medium tyre, MSkyZ opting for that faster soft tyre. So those initial laps are going to be crucial, Dan. How do you see this one weighing up?
I think an awful lot of it is going to depend, much like in the real-world race. You know, if you're still able to keep with the leader come the end of the period of time with no DRS. That's going to be the big question here, really, I think, and there will be DRS trains. From the experience earlier on in the F2 cars as well, certainly in that race, there was very little in the way of slipstream effect. So if the same thing persists here, then drivers may actually end up finding themselves having to use ERS and DRS far more to be able to get the moves done than they might be expecting. But, of course, you know, there is that to consider. There are other things as well as we go through this one. And I think that one of those things could well be that, of course, there is that tyre strategy difference going on here. Where we've got, of course, those on the mediums, those on the softs, those on hards. And on hards in particular, I think is an interesting one. I think that's maybe a strategy that banks on there being a number of very early safety cars in this race. For those on softs, again, it's an interesting one. I'm not entirely certain whether that's going to necessarily go their way, unless, again, there is some jeopardy. But again, it is the Jeddah Corniche circuit. It is one in which we tend to see quite a lot of safety cars. Statistically speaking, in Formula 1, there's a 100% chance that one is going to come out. In the Crit Series, it might be subtly different, but I would imagine it's not too far away.
No, not at all. Let us know as well in the live chat, folks, who do you think is going to be the victor here at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, here in the EA Sports F1 Creator Series. Please let your voices be heard. Who are you supporting here for the start of this race? Of course, we are going to be witnessing as the drivers make their way into their positions as we get ready to run. Noigueira on the front row, MSkyZ in second. It all comes down to this, a battle for the title. Rastin Chai starting in 6th. Remember, championship leader coming into this one tonight as all eyes look up to the lights. And we'll get set to go racing here at the Corniche. Keep it with us, folks. We're going to be witnessing one hellacious ride as now all 5 lights are lit. and it's pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go. Noiguera getting a good jump at MSkyZ with the pace on the soft tyres, able to try and bring the hammer down upon Noiguera as they make their way through the first chicane wheel to wheel. They will stay as they now pirouette out of turn 2 in towards turn 3. Sky's the limit though for MSkyZ. He leads here on the opening lap here at Jeddah. Michi Hoyer battling with JD Devilnew further back as well, but it is SkyZ at the front of the order, and El Rey Guri has joined him. It's Alfa Romeo Sauber 2 and 3.
It certainly is, yeah, very, very good start for both Alfa Romeos, but better still for MSkyZ. That soft tyre giving them the extra purchase, that extra grip off of the line. I must say, though, it was a fantastic start for Nogueira to have been able to keep it alongside for as long as they did. The gap between the boxes here in Saudi Arabia is not particularly long between the cars, and so therefore it's a bit more equal than you would see at other races. So this then is a great beginning to the race here for MSkyZ. But if they're not able to break this DRS tow gap between now and when that DRS system is activated, then they could be in a world of pain come the later stages of their stint. But as it is then, Rasin Chai is who we're looking at right now, championship leader of course, down in 5th place and currently being a little bit in the way of harassed by Tom, with a very characteristic Tom start, being able to get themselves up the order nice and quickly on the first lap, despite the fact that they didn't necessarily qualify in the absolute best shape that they could have done. They're also very close to the back of Rasin Chai as they make their way down the start-finish straight here. I have a suspicion that this is going to be the Alpine going up into P5 by the time we get into that turn 1 braking zone, and yes, it's already done. Up into P5 goes Tom, and in the background we've got a fight between GB68 and Infratic. I have a funny feeling the Ferrari might come out on top of those two there. No, I tell you, I'll lie, because of course GB68 has that soft tyre on.
Yeah, and Tom 97 also looking to make places as well. Remember, didn't even make it into Q3, but is now battling it out this time with Paya. Team at Marduk, we've got an update. Box. I have the strats. Well, there you go. Now, whether that's going to be an early call, it was an early call from Team at Marduk to come into the pits. So there we go. Now making his way out of the pit lane. We've got movement all across the field here. Dat Guy Vince and Zafso coming together as Dat Guy Vince holds on to 12th just behind Boosler as well. As we now see in the two Red Bulls now mixing it up together. It's imperative as well. We saw Tom earlier on making moves as he managed to persevere onwards, of course, against GB68 and Rasin Chai as well, and that's because he's on the soft tyres, needs to make the most of them. Dat Guy Vince doing exactly the same as he passes his teammate Boosler out of P12 up to P11. There's Tom now making his way through the fast-paced slalom. Now MSkyZ, it's imperative really for his strategy here, Dan, to try and break Noiguera, because Noiguera on that medium tyre, for him, just staying behind MSkyZ in this initial stint's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just staying in behind him. He's got the longevity on the tyres, and therefore if he is able to stay with him, and then by the time that you see MSkyZ going into the pits, that won't be the worst of the tyres for Noguera at that stage, and so they will therefore have to they'll have to then really push hard. And then, of course, Nogueira is going to be able to come into the pits much later, go into another set of tyres, whether that be hards or softs, and then get themselves to the end in a very good fashion. So, yeah, this is something which is going to be interesting for the time being. It's certainly one of these things now where if you are supporting someone who's got the set of softs on, they've made a great bit of progress off the start. It's definitely not over. They are not likely to keep that position after the pit stops, and they will need to do some hard work to get it back. And then equally, of course, those who are supporting those on mediums or hards who've lost places off the start here, then it's not the end of the world. There is the preferred strategy, shall we say, is in their favour rather than the other way around.
Yeah, Paya now coming under some real trouble. Tom 97 passed him, as did Boosler and Dat Guy Vince, and now it looks like Paya has managed to fight back against Dat Guy Vince and now needs to try and find himself again out on the circuit, just making perhaps a little error that's cost him a little bit of time, as now we see Dat Guy Vince cutting off the circuit, maybe just getting a little tied up with the McLaren just further up, but not forgetting, remember, Dat Guy Vince on the soft tyres, so doesn't want to be hindered here by Paya. Incidentally, Boosler outside the DRS window of Tom 97 as well, so it's imperative the Red Bull closes back up. GB68 now passing Rasin Chai as well for that 6th place. A truly magnificent run as well here in the initial, and GB on a mission to try and elevate his position in this early phase. Rasin, of course, on mediums, and now GB has got Tom in front of him here on the same strategy. Is now they're here on lap 4 of 50. DRS, of course, enabled on the previous lap. GB now taking the fastest lap of the race. We have team radio from Rasin Chai really struggling here. So Rasin not enjoying himself here on this opening stint, but you've got to remember he is on that medium tyre here, Dan.
He certainly is. He's been passed by a number of drivers on the soft at this stage, both Tom and GB68. have got themselves in a situation where they've got, of course, that grippier rubber underneath them. They're the two cars directly ahead of Racing. So at this stage, if not for that extra bit of grip underneath those drivers, he would potentially still be up in P5. So that's all still to play for as far as they're concerned. Alex Gillen here getting a little bit of harassment from Tom, and now Tom spotting the opportunity now that Alex has gone deep into the hairpin, and now with that extra grip, that extra purchase from the soft rubber, they're able to now be right on the gearbox of that Alpha Tauri as they go through the next few corners. And as they come up and through towards the next DRS straight in particular, I think there's a potential for a move here into Lance Stroll corner. Other thing to note as well that we're being told by our director is that it could well be that M-Skyzian is in a bit of a trouble here if there is no safety car, because they may well have underfueled for this race in the hopes of there being a safety car.
What a way to lose a title as well, should it come down to this, because whilst obviously running out of fuel might not be the issue, it's the saving, the amount of time that he's going to forfeit just due to the mere fact that he has to save. That guy Vince now keeping Peya at bay as we stay with this battle for this P3. As we can see Tom right in the wheel tracks of Alex Gillen, a great chance here for him to open up the door. DRS open for both drivers now. A little look down the inside as now Tom switches from left to right and looks to challenge Alex Gillen heading through turns 1 and 2. Who's braver on the throttle pedal? As now once again Tom trying to fight for the Alpha Tauri, keeping him at bay, at least for now, here on lap 5.
Yep, it's all a good, clean racing from the angles that we could see that time, and all of that scrapping has allowed GB68 to close up to this pair. Both of them now under a bit of threat from the Aston Martin, though much more so in the case of Tom, of course. It's also brought Racing Chai back into the mix here as well, so that's now an interesting fight going on there. Again, a similar dynamic to what we're seeing at the front of the field, really. Those on the softs have to get the work done now and disappear off into the distance before they start to have those tyres drop off, and then before, of course, those mediums then start to come into play. But as it is right now, we can see that Racing just having a little bit of a check-up moment there as they came through. We've got yellow flags in Sector 2 as well. Oh, and that is Devil Noob, JD Devil Noob, facing the wrong way, and with not much of a front wheel left on that, front wing rather, left on that wagon. That being said, though, it looked pretty intact from there, so I wonder if they've had contact with someone else possibly. That's all stuff to consider later on. We might end up seeing another name with Pitt next to it. Might well be Mitchy Hoyer, in fact. They are some way off the back of B-Roy at this point in time. And I don't remember them being that far back. And Mitchy Hoyer's retired from the session. So let's see. Oh, he's done it in Lance Stroll corner! We've had a Lance Stroll moment, and Mitchy Hoyer, I must say, gets into the series with lots more legitimacy than Lance Stroll got into his. But it does mean now that we've got a virtual safety car because of almost identical incidents there.
Yeah, VSC now out on track, still not in safety car procedure just yet, just VSC for now, so there will be a chance that we can go green, but the pit stops now being made as we have Meraki and Peya coming into the pits for their necessary tyre changes, so some early calls being made, some leaping off the medium tyre in this case, Peya jumping off the medium tyre and straight onto the mediums again. So he's going on a two medium run here in the initial. A very strange way to do it, because you would have thought, well, maybe he'll plumb for the hards and go as long as he can. But we're back underway here in this case. Green flags here now as DRS is now being re-enabled here at this portion of the race. Lap 6 of 50, still at the front as we now see GB's gone. GB's gone as well. Well, I tell you what, one Aston Martin bailed yesterday. This time it's the turn of GB68 with his very own near enough Lance Stroll moment here, Dan.
Absolutely, and it was that corner last year, of course, that Lance Stroll had to pull up at the edge of the circuit on that corner because of a reliability issue. No such thing, of course, in this series, unless, of course, you have a hardware failure of your actual PC or your wheel possibly. Very wide there for Racing Chai headed through the corner there as they were trying to pursue Tom 97, very close to the back of that Alpine all the way through there, and that dirty air just washing its way over the front of the Mercedes car. As now 3-second time penalty for B-Roy, the first of what I anticipate to be many penalties. There's also damage there on the front wing of Racing Chai. He's missing an end plate on the right-hand side of that front wing.
Yeah, and what could that mean for the championship? Fabio now taking full opportunity of it and is going to go around the outside here. And bear in mind, Infratic also on medium tyres. So this is quite the move here for the Scuderia Ferrari, overtaking the championship leader coming here to Jeddah. Now, I tell you what, this is music to the ears of M-Sky-Z, because if Racing Chai is carrying damage and he free falls through this field, strategy-wise, the championship is in the hands of M-Sky-Z.
Certainly is, yep. There are plenty of permutations into how this could all end up flipping on its head. But of course, at this stage, as we say, it's going to rely on what happens with the soft runners, whether there are any safety cars, other bits and pieces as well. And, having started out on these medium tyres, it's looking like things are maybe a bit more in peril right now for Racing, but it's a long race. There's a lot that can happen, and of course, if MSkyZ has got to do an awful lot of fuel saving between now and the end, if there are no safety cars, that could then reduce their overall points count and therefore make life a bit easier for Racing. As it is right now, though, they need P5 in order to secure this championship. So what they are doing right now in P8 is not enough.
No, and as this race carries on as well, whilst he still has that wing damage, and just look at the time difference, he is free-falling as Alex Gillen moves up to third place ahead of El Rey Guri as they look to battle, heading through the final hairpin now and look to open up for lap 8 of 50. It is still, though, MSkyZ out in front. DRS is open for Noiguera further up. El Rey Guri and Tom also coming nose to tail is now opening the door. In comes Tom now, looking for a move for that P4 place, and has indeed found it, but has certainly El Rey Guri trying to fight back here against Tom as they make contact, but still able to stay on track. Tom was so fortunate not to lose his car whatsoever.
Very, very fortunate indeed. The contact model can be unforgiving sometimes, as into the pits has come our championship leader, Racing Chai, now all the way down to 18th in the field on a set of hard tyres, as he hopes to go as deep into this race as he possibly can now and maybe salvage something from it. But I tell you what, it's going to be a difficult task. I would say that the main thing they're going to have to strive for now is putting in solid quick laps, lap after lap after lap, and then hope that they're able to get themselves into a position in time where they can then, of course, have everyone else pit ahead of them, fall back behind them, and then, of course, we end up have that potential for a safety car, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We can, though, go across to Scott Taylor. Scott, give us the insights. I believe you have some insights on the crash.
I do indeed. That was quite a crazy few laps, so I've been doing my best to catch on. Razin in particular was involved in the GB spin. So when GB, and as he breaks a bit early, Razin gets his wing damage. GB goes off the track. Awful for both drivers. Razin's absolutely raging at that, to be honest. You can see it from the point of view quickly. I can show you this and see what happened to him. Yep, got it here. Sorry, Jeddah quite crazy. So from his point of view, he seems to break at a reasonable time, but obviously Razin just wasn't ready for it. Gets the touch. Thankfully, GB didn't get any damage. And sadly, the most saddest clip yet was Mitchie Hoyer. There was a little bit of chaos going down earlier on. It was with JD. You see what happens. JD loses it, goes straight into Mitchie, which is awful enough. Then he has to get back into the race with that damage of wing. We'll cut over just a little bit. As we're coming to the end of this straight, without a wing, just doesn't take this corner right. Too much. Straight into the wall. Tire off.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking, Scott. Thank you so much for the insight. And on his final race in the Creator Series as a full-time talent, as a driver, it's a shame to lose someone so talented as Mitchie Hoyer, who has certainly been a multi-champion, a figure as well on the R-Factor scene as well after all his championship wins in that instance. Came across to the F1 Game Series as well and showed loads of promise. We all were holding great deals of excitement when he made his arrival here to the Creator Series, and it's unfortunate to see him leave us as well at this stage. We're now seeing the battles happening out on track again this time. MSkyZ under threat because now Noiguera is starting to put in the pressure now, but Alex Gillen, where did that come from? Down the inside, just found the move, and he could yet take the lead of the race. Incredible now. Lap 9 becomes 10 as now Gillen goes on the attack. 3 wide in towards turn 1. Noiguera, who hit pole position in Q3. A sensational Phoenix recovery out to the final hairpin to now lead the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix here in the Creator Series.
Absolutely brilliant bit of battling there. You could see the advantage given away to Alex Gillen down the start-finish straight. Then, of course, it went back to Nogueira when they had that double DRS opportunity there. Well, not double DRS, but double slipstream opportunity. 2 people giving them the slipstream in front, just allowing them to build up that maximum delta in terms of speed, and then they've just disappeared up that half second up the road. It's not going to mean that they're completely safe, of course, far from it. I imagine there's going to be a fair bit of battling now between them and Alex Gillen, but I think that is a sign of the times for the soft tyre, and that it is not good enough to be able to go on a long protracted stint, as we've seen for MSkyZ. They are now starting to fall much closer towards the clutches of those behind, rather than necessarily keeping pace with those in front. I say all that, but as we go through the DRS zones, that is now a gap that is starting to come down again because they've got that open rear wing. But as we go through the corners, you can see that's then where MSkyZ is losing the time now. I think those softs have gone over an initial cliff that the mediums haven't just yet. Alex Gillen moves up into the lead of this race just now in front of Nogueira, but of course that's now going to mean that Alex is exposed to Nogueira's counter-attack as they go down start-finish straight here with, of course, that second DRS detection zone. And so now then that rear wing will open up down the start-finish straight, not on the AlphaTauri, but on the Alfa Romeo. And as they come down towards turn number 1, then it's pretty predictable. Across the line into the first corner they go, and Nogueira retakes the lead of the race.
Yeah, that Alfa Romeo looks so quick in a straight line as well. Tom 97 has just jumped in frantic for that P6 as well. So taking a look at this on paper, the softs still have very much something in them, and Tom 97 making full use of it, though he is 2.6 seconds behind his teammate Tom. And in this instance, Infratic, right on his tail, will have DRS, while Tom 97 doesn't. So still a chance here for the Scuderia Ferrari to try and take back his original place. Racing Chai has just made a place on B-Roy as well. Remember, he, of course, pitted for those hard tyres. B-Roy in the pits as it stands, and currently the only driver with a 3-second time penalty against his name. Incidentally enough, we only have a few warnings scattered around. What I will say is that B-Roy has got 6 warnings to his name, 3 warnings going to Racing Chai already here in this instance, Dan, so he's in dire risk of a penalty here.
Yeah, very much so, and it's one of these things where, of course, on the less grippy tyre, where you've got a little bit less control in terms of the sliding and the overall grip you've got underneath you, then this is not the situation that you want to be in when you are in that fight for the championship, where you're constantly having to fight against penalties and things like that as a potential risk. As it is, then we see the lead retaken by Alex Gillen at this stage. Into the final corner we go then. I imagine this is going to be a pretty easy, well, I say pretty easy, maybe not with the oversteer like that for Nogueira, but as we get DRS open once again, then I think actually Alex might hold on to this one. That gap looks a bit too large to be overcome, and as they come down towards turn number 1, yep, it is very much as you were for Nogueira, but not for their teammate, as El Rey Guri moves their Alfa Romeo up into P3. It is an Alfa Romeo 2-3, which is something that I don't think Formula 1 has seen since the 1960s.
No, not at all. It's been quite some years since we have seen this projected, but in F1 Esports, vastly different. Of course, Jarno Opmeer would take his first title in an Alfa Romeo Sauber as now they head through the initial stages of lap 12 of 50. Nogueira currently sat in second with El Rey Guri parked right in behind him here in this case. Now, we did see El Rey Guri and MSkyZ. They do have a little bit of history in this series. They have a little bit of needle. It has happened in the past. MSkyZ, now it's his mission to try and fight back against El Rey Guri. But the big, bold question is, are those soft tyres finished? Is he now lacking in the pace department? Tom now right on his rear here now as Alex Gillen looks to try and stamp home the authority, getting closer and closer to that 1 second breach, which will place Nogueira at great risk from his teammate in behind. Though as I say that, El Rey Guri now is second in behind his teammate Nogueira.
Yeah, very, very close indeed. But, of course, just outside of that second means that life is going to get a bit more difficult for El Rey unless they're able to do something magical on the brakes here. But it is going to have to be something magical because, of course, their teammate has gotten that DRS assistance all the way down. Oh, and big slide for Alex Gillen this time, not for Nogueira. So this one will be really simple for Nogueira this time. Down in towards turn number 1 we go. The move is done even before we get to the start-finish line there. If this was the final lap of the race, that would have handed the win to Nogueira from Alex Gillen by a 10th or so. And as it is then, into turns 1 and 2 they go, but now the pair of them are going to have to actually work together. They're not going to want to, but that's what they're going to have to do if they want to try and maximize their chances of getting the win here today, because they've got El Rey Guri potentially falling outside of that DRS window. But as I say all that, through these corners, the dirty air coming off the back of Nogueira's car and that lack of pace to be able to just outright put it down to the floor and disappear away from everybody means that it has actually allowed El Rey to get a bit closer. We've also seen going off the road there somebody. We've got Racing now back up into 1 point territory, so that is good as far as their march back up the field is concerned. 4 seconds till they catch onto the back of Tom 97. So their march continues, but back up towards the front we can see MSkyZ then still in 4th place for the time being. Those softs hanging on for the time as it is right now, but We've got Tom then in hot pursuit as well, having started in the, where was it, down in 9th place, I believe it was. And they then on those soft tyres as well. So there we go. We've got that there. So 8th place, in fact, it was for Tom. And so they're going to make them up, get themselves up onto the back of that McLaren in the not too distant future, I would imagine, and try and get themselves sorted. Really, I think it's a sign of how this season has gone. Really, where we see MSkyZ doing incredibly well in qualifying and then being caught by other drivers in the race and passed. It does seem to be that race pace management has been something that has been a bit of an Achilles heel for them after the first couple of rounds. And there we can see coming out the final turn, El Taco Man and Booster fighting each other. And well, this is an interesting one. Then we've got the American versus the Mexican, and as they go down towards turn number 1, then it's going to be close, but no cigar for El Taco Man, as then Boosler comes on through and gets that move done up into P8 for the Red Bull driver with a great big whack of oversteer to boot, and that guy Vince is into the pits.
Yeah, his teammate, that guy Vince, coming in. A bit of a tank slapper, unfortunately for Booster, very nearly catching the wall on the inside. I think got away with it, though. He was very, very fortunate. Noiguera, though, still out in front and harnessing the power of his Alfa Romeo Sauber. Now, I will say, I have been looking at Noiguera. He missed the apex at turn 1 on the previous lap, which did open up the door for Alex Gillen. Now, I do wonder whether his car, setup-wise, has been built for a more straight-line speed setup, as now we see Alex Gillen now make his way through. Now, as I understand it, we will be talking to Michi Hoyer after his retirement that he had here, of course, in this session. Michi, devastating scenes for you. It's a sorry case of affairs to lose you like this. You must be disappointed.
Oh yeah, I actually am. Was an absolute rookie mistake without a front wing to put it like this to the barrier. I'm absolutely sorry for Razin, giving him an even bigger task as today, with him trying to win his Drivers' Championship, but now for the Team Championship he needs to stretch his legs even further, and so I'm extremely sore right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. Obviously, with this being your final race as a full-time driver, we are, of course, going to miss you without any shadow of a doubt. But you've had a wonderful championship in a way. We've seen some great results in the past. Surely the highlights have to be the Mystery GP, where you took 3rd, and the intermediate tyre pole.
Absolutely. I'm devastated to leave the series like this. I'm devastated to leave in the first place, but then the style I leave is something like, give me a shovel and I dig myself a hole to escape in. But yeah, absolutely, as you say, these especially that one race with the intermediates pole and a podium, out of, just from the racecraft and race performance point of view, is just great to have been able to show what I actually can do. Today I've shown the opposite, and yeah, accordingly is the mood.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I mean, looking ahead, obviously we're going to have some fantastic moments. I'm sure we'll see you back in the Creator Series soon as well, Mitchie. Thank you so much for joining us here at this point. Of course, no longer a full-time driver, but great to have Michi Hoyer with us. Now, MSkyZ has indeed boxed everybody. He's taken a pit stop. He's moved from the softs to the medium tyres. Mr. Dale, in fact, on medium tyres now, fresh mediums after his pit stop 2 laps ago. He's just gone and nailed the purple first sector as we now get team radio from El Taco Man. Me and Boosler need to work together. So he's hoping for some American continent harmonioship between the two, as now Boosler and Taco Man continue to swap as they make their way out of the final hairpin now, struggling for grip on the outset, heading down the long straight. DRS opens up for Boosler this time around and lays down the hammer upon his fellow American continent counterpart. That, of course, being El Taco Man, who is now reduced down to P7. Boosler now takes his place in P6.
There we are then. That's that as far as they're concerned. Infratic also boxes. You can see there coming back down the pit lane. And of course, in the real world, this pit lane is not too long in terms of the time loss that you experience down here. So this is something which the drivers, of course, are going to be hoping rings true in the virtual world as well. But that being said, with Mr. Dale being that close to the back of MSkyZ after they came out the pits, that's a good sign that maybe the undercut is very, very powerful around here. We'll have to wait and see, but as it is then, we've now just got the medium tyre runners plus Tom at the top end of the field, with those 4 all pushing on and all within just a couple of tenths of each other, with the exception now of El Rey Guri. He's actually fallen beyond a second compared to his teammate. And so as they're coming up through Lance Stroll corner, or maybe we should start calling that Hoyer corner, then of course into the final part of the lap we go. DRS open on the back of the Alfa Romeos, both of them still managing to maintain that DRS gap that is required up to the car in front. Alex Gillen still leading the way here in this particular race. A return to form, it must be said, for Mr. Gillen after a couple of races where they'd had a bit of a stinker really in some of the races. Imola springs to mind as one of them, and some others as well. So good to see them fighting back at the front where they should be. For Tom, they are managing to hang in there quite well on those old soft tyres at this stage, still up in 4th place, still hanging on in that DRS train with the other cars. And of course I mentioned earlier on, George, that this could be something which actually hurts the soft tyre runners if they're in the front of this train. Actually, if you're at the back of a train like this and you're able to extend your tyre stint by just keeping with these drivers on the mediums who are then going to have a bit more pace outright than you, this can actually flip things once again and go benefit and advantage to you.
Yeah, and I get the feeling as well, going back off what you were saying in terms of where individual drivers are in terms of their strategies, as Alex Gillen now states that it's time to recharge the batteries. Now, off the back of MSkyZ's pit stop, whilst of course he isn't necessarily the race leader, the key thing is that he's come out ahead of Rasin Chai at the very least. Now remember, Rasin boxed earlier than anybody onto a set of hard tyres due to the wing damage. Now, the undercut has not prevailed against MSkyZ. SkyZ still managing to come out of the pits, and he's on fresher tyres than Rasin Chai. 2-lap-old mediums against what looks to be the 9-lap-old hards that Rasin has adopted. And bear in mind, MSkyZ is going to be faster than Rasin for a great deal because he is on that better compound. And whilst this isn't a track that necessarily suits Rasin, it will very much suit the style of MSkyZ. If he carries on, I get the feeling that this is very much falling into MSkyZ's favour.
Yeah, and I mean, we say that, but the hard tyres there for Rasin are working particularly well. I mean, they seem to be giving them good amounts of pace. We saw in the real world, of course, as we see a retake for the lead here, with Noiguera making their way up into 1st place once more, with Alex Gillen back down into 2nd place, with El Rey Guri right behind them as well, of course. If I were El Rey at this stage, I'd be wanting to make a move on one of these two in front of me here, because yes, there's the possibility you might lose the leader, but at this stage, all it is the top two swapping places, and El Rey and Tom being left out in the dark, really, and in the cold. So there we are then. MSkyZ sets themselves another lap. We've then got Infratic setting good fast laps. We've also got Safso coming out the pits now as well. But yeah, going back to my point about Rasin, in the real world, we saw that the hard tyre was a very, very good race tyre at this weekend's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Now, of course, this is last year's game. It's not necessarily going to be reflective of that, but, you know, based on all of that, if you can get a tyre that is actually working well underneath you and is providing you consistent lap time, consistent and quick lap time, then that can be of great advantage to you. That guy Vince also pulls off and gets out the way there, as we then also see, oh dear, I think that guy Vince has tried to get out the way of the faster cars, and then because Rasin's overtaken him off the circuit, the game has then punished him and penalised him and forced him to give the place back, I think, is what's happened there.
Yeah, not only that, it's giving him another warning as well. He's on 4 warnings now, Rasin Chai, so he's one away surely of getting a penalty. This is surely going to hurt his chances at laying claim to this championship. It's slipping through his fingers as we speak, as we now see him make his way through the left and right. It does feel that he is lacking a little bit in terms of apex speed, as now we're seeing a swap once again. Noiguera in front with El Rey Guri now moving into 2nd. Alex Gillen left in the dust in 3rd place as Tom goes on the attack on his very old 18-lap-old soft tyres. How is he doing this? I have to tell you, Tom on his return over the last couple of weeks has been digging out some real A-list performances. Of course, we didn't see him at Bahrain, but he scooped up some big points back at the Mystery GP as Infratic sets yet another fastest lap and goes on the attack of MSkyZ, but he's 4.7 seconds behind that of the McLaren, but is still digging himself higher and higher into that top 10. The Scuderia having a great run so far, like Noiguera, who is also having a stellar run, as both Saubers are in the top 2.
Yeah, absolutely. This is looking absolutely brilliant as far as this combat is going. There are so many stories that could come to light by the end of this Grand Prix, depending on how strategy shapes out. Of course, safety cars could potentially ruin some of that strategic discussion there, but of course it would then give the other benefit of then allowing things to come all back together again, and we can then have a bit of a scrap right at the end with drivers all on quick tyres and so on. But as it is right now, we can see that Alex Gillen does not want to be sat behind these two Alfa Romeos. He's making a little bit of a look now to the inside to maybe get the move done on El Reguri, who sits in behind their teammate for the time being. Alfa Romeo with the potential to score really, really big if things were to finish like they are right now. And as it is then, down towards turn number 1 we're going to go. I have a suspicion we're going to see a swap between the two Alphas, but is that then going to open the door for... no, in fact, there is no swap between the Alfa Romeo drivers at all, and so that means then that Alex Gillen does not get the opportunity to have an assault on those two cars in front and make it 3 wide into a corner. Instead, he's got to sit in behind for the time being, and this really was what we were having to look at earlier on when it was El Reguri in Alex's position at this point in time, because of course El Rey was just stuck watching the two cars in front fighting. He was not able to do all that much because you're then part of the DRS train. There's not a huge amount of benefit you're getting in terms of, relatively speaking, to the car in front of you when you've got yourself in this situation. So yeah, this is an interesting scenario that we find ourselves in at this point in time when it comes to this fight at the front. And also, as you rightly point out there earlier on, Tom doing an absolutely brilliant job so far to stick with these.
Yeah, he is. He's still within the 1 second gap and still managing to persevere and obtain DRS on Alex Gillen in 3rd place. So we're currently in a complexion where the top 2, the Sauber drivers, are currently at the head of the field and are really starting to show a period of dominance here. Noiguera and El Reguri seemingly working so well together, a partnership that probably you would have declared unlikely. M. Sky Z, though, up to 7th place as he jumps his teammate. Of course, M. Sky Z on the faster set of tyres. He's only been on them now for 5 laps, with the 14 lap on mediums being graced by the presence of Peya, down in 8th place as well, as Mr. Dale gets a 3-second time penalty. That's going to be painful for him as well. Also joining him on that is B-Roy, of course, and Tim Marduk with 5 seconds to his name too, as we now rejoin the battle at the front end with Tom, who is right in behind Noiguera, though, going for his pit stop here, and now looking to try and jump onto a new set of medium tyres. So it's 2 mediums now so far. No doubt, though, he's going to have to change his tyres for that latter stint, which I get the feeling could be softs.
Yeah, absolutely could be. I mean, I'm interested to see whether or not there are going to be those drivers at the head of this field now trying to get themselves back onto terms by using a one-stop strategy as opposed to those going with 2. It's going to be an interesting thing to factor in here as we get into the later on stages, because of course by not going for the extra stop, you are then saving yourself 20-25 seconds or so in terms of that time in the pit lane. But of course you then have those much older tyres on your wagon by the end of the race. Now it is feasible that these guys, having started on mediums, could then get themselves to the end on hards, possibly. If they were to get themselves to around the halfway point, then that would be an assumed thing. The hards could definitely get to the end of them. But certainly, as it is right now, Tom in 3rd place is doing a massive job to stay with those in the others in the top 3. Excuse me, that's a bit of hiccups coming in there. As to the outside goes Rasin Chai as he lets by Mr. Dale.
Yeah, I get the feeling that it's starting to fall apart here for Rasin Chai. And speaking of that, El Reguri getting things all kinds of wrong there at the front end as Tom now looks to go onto the attack, trying to get within that DRS window as El Rey looks to defend the place. Rasin Chai, though, forfeiting the P10 to Mr. Dale earlier on, who's now showing some really great pace. Here comes Noiguera down the inside now in the final hairpin. Wow, what a move from Noiguera, who has led a distinct portion of this race. Mr. Dale on the attack as now the Alpha Tauri goes wheel to wheel with the Red Bull of that guy Vince. Enter as well there on the side. You can see that Noiguera, he was crouched outside. He now cuts through to the inside out of turn 2. Great chance here for the Sauber Alfa Romeo driver, who has sent 2 places in the space of 3 or 4 corners. Truly, absolutely, sensationally brilliant from the one, the only Noiguera, who has really come into his own here at Jeddah.
Certainly has. Absolutely brilliant bit of driving there. It's a bit of a shame in a way that they've got to pit one more time, because with moves like that, with tyre preservation like we saw in their first stint, it'd be an interesting thing to see them try and go all the way to the end from this position here. I think that could be a winning strategy at this stage, but of course, as we say, impossible to do, to go medium and not be disqualified at the end of the race as a result. So yeah, this is looking like an interesting end to the race potentially, but of course I say an interesting end to the race, we're not even halfway there yet, George. But we've got ourselves now Mr. Dale down in 10th place, then Vince, then Rasin Chai. Rasin is going to need to really get the hammer down at some point here, and I'm curious as to whether maybe they've just let their head drop. Their psychology of a sports person, whether it's for real stakes, or whether it's just for the Creator Series. Even then, you're still competing with someone. You're still trying to get a good result, and you're trying to get things happening. And so that dipping of the head, metaphorically speaking, that loss in concentration, whatever it happens to be, whatever you want to term it as, that can be incredibly important. Psychology so important for a competitor, as Mr. Dale will have taken a psychological blow there from that guy Vince, overtaking them down the start-finish straight. Not only that, but in the background, Safso gets the move done on our championship leader as well.
Yeah, certainly does. Can I just say, Rasin Chai, a second a lap slower at this stage than MSkyZ further up. It is really not going to plan for Rasin Chai, who came into this one leading the championship. He is now forfeiting positions that he should not be forfeiting. He'll need a miracle to help him through the rest of this race. MSkyZ currently adopting P5. As it stands, it's getting tighter and tighter up at the front end, but a great chance for Skyzy to now unleash his very best here in this late stage. But it has to be said, credit to the Sauber guys. Elray Guri delivering a clinical performance, now currently sat P2 and now charging on Alex Gillen. We all remember his first, should we say, rendition in the F1 Creator Series. He took a break. Elray since came back, and his form has certainly stood out with the very best of them, has come back a renewed mentality, a new challenge, and is now adopting it very well as Safso now moves up to 11th ahead of Mr. Dale. But that's not the story. Alex Gillen trying to hold on to this race lead, but it's going to be very tricky now as Elray unleashes the power of the DRS as they head down now. Alex Gillen just cuts into the inside ever so slightly just to break any opportunity of Elray Guri challenging him into turn one, but he was not close enough in order to pull it off. But we've got Alex Gillen team radio here saying, is a one-stop wise? Good question, Alex Gillen. He's done 23 laps on those medium tyres. Without a doubt, a one-stop hard tyre stint to the end should take him to the end.
Certainly should, and I can't help but think that if you're considering the one stop at this stage, you should just be pulling the trigger now, because, we are now at that middle stage of the race. We are now about halfway in, and, to go onto a set of hard tyres at this stage, that would then allow you to get to the end. It also would then minimize, of course, any overlap that is then going to be achieved by the likes of MSkyZ and Fratic and all those others behind who have already now pitted onto a second set of tyres. So if they're going to the end, then it gives you less time to have to catch them up later on in terms of then getting onto the back of them and getting overtaking done. It also means then, of course, that, again, that lack of that difference in time, shall we say, in terms of when you get the move, get into the pits and get the new tyres on. If you stay out longer and longer and longer than you need to, then of course, what we'll end up seeing is we'll just end up seeing, whoa, look at this here. We've got Elray Guri now moving up into the lead of this race and deciding enough is enough. They're not going to sit behind Alex Gillen for all that much longer. And Tom has also lost DRS off of these two as a result of that. So I would imagine this is when we'll see Tom jump into the pits for another set of tyres. And into the pits at the very last second comes Elray Guri.
Yeah, and I think he might have sold the dummy slightly to Alex Gillen. So this will force, surely, Alex Gillen to come in and look at Tom's tyres as well. He is right in punctured territory, but he's still now coming into the pits for that tyre change, which is certainly, I think, a wise decision on his part. Now leaps for the medium tyres. Now, the question is, I think on the basis of that, I think Tom can also go for a one-stop. He could probably take the mediums right to the very end if he is so good with this soft compound. Let's wait and see. Rasin Chai having a bad time, clearly, as you can see from the team radio. Alex Gillen, though, whilst he's at the front end of the race, has he made a wise decision by not following what, should we say, his the guy that he was battling with earlier on, Elray Guri, by not following him into the pits? Has he now put himself in a disadvantage here, Dan?
I would say so. I mean, we've seen just how powerful the undercut is around here with some of the gaps that have been closed up between cars when the undercut has been executed. I think that for Alex now on these really old medium tyres that are clearly well beyond their best, they're being hung out for longer and longer and longer. I think that then those coming in and getting a new set on now, even if it is a set of hards, they are going to be in a significantly better and more performative condition than what we see right now. As it is, Noiguera gets a move done up into 4th place now, and just 6.2 seconds off the back of Tom 97, and therefore you could say about 6 to 7 seconds behind MSkyZ, and so therefore that far away from the effective race lead at this point. So again, I mean, they're going to have to do an awful lot of work here as Fabio manages to get the move back done around the outside to the final corner, but this then means that the up and over has happened here. Noiguera makes the move into that final turn, gets the DRS open to boot, and then gets themselves all the way down the start-finish straight with no problems whatsoever, whilst Infratic now has Meraki in their mirrors. So, yeah, these are all things which are all starting to shape out for these drivers now, with differences in strategy, differences in opinion as to what the best tyre compound and strategy is going to be. I'm really confused as to why Alex Gillen has continued on out there at this stage.
Yeah, no, he's really taking this very far into the stint. I do wonder, he's not going to go for the softs, is he? To go right to the very end, as he looked at Tom's strategy and sort of deciphering whether that's the right move? I'm not quite sure. I mean, Tom has since come into the pits. He's now on medium tyres. Tom 97 in 3rd place. He's on 14-lap-old mediums, but his strategy was undertaken vastly differently to that of his teammate, who instead of the 11 laps that Tom 97 took on his softs, vastly was outweighed by Tom, his teammate, who did 24 laps on his soft tyres. Truly bamboozling, but we'll have to wait and see whether Tom's strategy will work out for him. El Guri, incidentally, in the pit stop phase, still managed to hold position ahead of Tom in that P11 spot, and Tom is fighting for the DRS to try and get to within reach of El Guri. Rasin Chai currently in front of El Guri, and El Rey is starting to tap into that 1 second gap as well, as Infratic now jumps ahead of Noiguera for that 4th place. So there we have it. Noiguera now down in 5th with Infratic holding position, but Noiguera will have DRS as now Tom as well makes his way up through towards turn 1. Can't quite find a place to make the move, but Noiguera can as he looks to the outside. The positioning on track that made him oh so successful earlier on, and he moves ahead of Infratic, taking the place back that he lost, and now 4th place going to him. Obviously, I think he and Infratic, they may as well work together here and close the gap on Tom 97.
Yeah, absolutely, as a move made here by Rasin Chai puts them back up to 9th place now in their quest to get themselves back inside the top 5 to be able to defend their championship position. If SkyZ finishes in 2nd place, then he just needs the next place up the road, that being held by that guy Vince. Now, of course, between now and then, we've got a lot of potential for things to maybe change in the face of this race. We know, of course, that Tom 97 needs to pit at some stage. We know that MSkyZ is likely not to be able to get to the end on these tyres. If they do, they'll be well within puncture territory by then. Alex Gillen still needs to make their 1st pit stop as well. So all these things factor into Rasin still having a chance here, I think it's fair to say. But the question is going to be as to how things do start to shape out towards the end. Because I think that if, going back to the question you raised earlier, George, about Alex Gillen's strategy to maybe go onto softs instead of onto hards, I think that's a failed idea. I think that that's something where you will have such an enormous undercut from everybody else out there, just a bit longer than soft tyres, he says. So, I mean, I think it's a failing strategy, honestly, because we've seen with Tom doing the great big long, the longest stint on the softs that we saw anybody do, going 24 laps before then taking them off. But you saw just how quickly they lost ground when they were outside of DRS. They were tyres where, yes, you could get them to keep on going a long time, but they were not competitive for a long time. I would say if you're going to go onto softs and come on out of there and hope you're going to be able to then drive all the way through to the end, they're going to be good for maybe 10 or 15 laps tops, I think, as far as being able to be quicker than other cars around you, be able to push forwards and get the moves done. I think that if Alex decides to do that, then that is a failed strategy. I think, in fact, at this point, they're going to need something of a miracle from safety cars or something else to get them back into this one, because otherwise I can see them finishing well down the order.
Well, I think obviously the mission is vastly different, isn't it? I think Tom, of course, who did the initial stints on the softs, he was able to stay in behind those and just use the DRS. You can't really do that towards the end of a race when you're looking to win, because obviously you're going to sacrifice the toe when you're at the front of the field. So obviously you could be right in that instance. So it's a very risky move from Alex Gillen to play. Obviously he's going to need, I think, to go substantially longer, I think, on his mediums to make this strategy work, because ideally you're going to need to be around the 10 to 12 lap window, I would say, you know, to allow the softs to obviously maintain optimal pace. But Rasin Chai Team Radio, once again, the tyres are dead, he's saying, which is not good news for him, because he's currently sat on the in the place of where he could yet challenge now, as we see Infratic bursting past Meraki. I tell you what, he's impressed me, has Infratic. Fabio, What does he have for breakfast this morning? I tell you what, it's working for him right now. 5th place, and is now ahead of Meraki. Some movement further back as well. That guy Vince and Zafso wheel to wheel as they head down through towards turn 1. Zafso looking to try and maintain that inside line, which should help him. He had the DRS as well, as now we see El Rey Guri down the inside of Tom here this time around the Sauber. Alfa Romeo running deep out of turn 1 in towards turn 2, but Tom unable to cancel him back as they make their way in towards turn 3, and it is the Alfa Romeo Sauber that leads that battle between he and the Alpine in behind.
Absolutely, and it's an interesting dynamic here, seeing the Alpine being held back here by the Alfa Romeo, because of course they've got those mediums on versus hards, and they're not exactly old tyres either. They have been on for a relatively short period of time, so this should still be very much the medium tyres territory. You can see there, yeah, just 4 laps in terms of how long those tyres have been on for. It's also very interesting to note that with Rasin Chai, 21 laps, and he's considering them dead at this point. Now, of course, he's had to do some fighting throughout all of that time as well, and other bits and pieces, so, you know, that's not helped him, certainly, but that also doesn't necessarily bode well. Again, as you and I have both been saying, for anyone who might be thinking to go softs to the end at around this stage, or anytime soon, really, it's been pointed out by Triple P Productions in the chat, it's surprising there haven't been any safety cars at this point.
Yeah, Rasin Chai saying, I need a safety car, please. Now that we're remaining on the safety car narrative. But Meraki now battling back against Infratic as they look to go side by side and fighting back against Infratic. But at that portion of the circuit where obviously DRS will open up for Fabio as Alex Gillen comes into the pits. And this obviously looking for that soft tyre to take him to the very end as they now look to go side by side now. Heading down the order, we can see some jumbling further back as we then saw them going side by side. That was, of course, the Aston Martin that we saw earlier on of Zafso. El Rey Guri in the fight with this as well, but they're bringing along a train, including Tom and that guy Vince heading through towards turn 3 and turn 4. Zafso in the Aston Martin, now making his way through the first sector, needs to try and close up to Fabio, who is still trying to hunt down after Meraki, but they're bringing El Rey Guri along for the ride on that fresher set of hard tyres, and no doubt getting them up to temperature so he can lay down the hammer against the Aston Martin. Great move from El Rey Guri now as he looks to propel himself forward, as now looking further up we do of course have the Haas that's now pulling alongside, which is El Taco Man, letting them carry on through, and yellow flags lighting up in sector 2 because obviously we have a slow car.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was thinking that for a moment. Yeah, it's something to do with the slow car, and it's a bit of a shame, really, from the championship's perspective that it's not a full safety car suddenly coming out for an incident, because at this point, I mean, it's very much Skyzy's to lose now. They've ended up, you know, having incidents throughout the season. They've had all sorts of problems that have pegged them back a little bit here and there, but at this stage, they are now in the maximum point scoring position. They've got themselves where they need to be right now. If it were to finish like this, they would be champions by quite some way. Their rival needs to get another 5 positions on the road in order to be able to get themselves that championship trophy. So this is something which is going to continue for quite some time. And as we see here, Meraki into the pits. So medium tyres have come to the end of their life for Jake, and so he elects to go into the pits to get them changed. You can see just how far down the order they end up going. Also into the pits is Rasin Chai, I think, because they are now down in 14th position. Yes, they've just come out of the stops there. So what set of tyres is that that's just gone on to them? It's a set of mediums. Now, mediums should be able to get into the end from here because the cars will be lighter. There will be, of course, more rubber down on the track at this stage as well, and it will allow them to fight a bit more. Now, I think that what's going to end up saving this for Rasin will be if Skyzy's tyres go off, if they try and take them all the way to the end, or if they have to pit again and not able to make up all the positions that they'll lose by pitting, that being M Sky Z. So I think realistically, Rasin needs to do as much damage limitation as they possibly can now on that fresh set of mediums and get themselves to the end as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a key stint now for Rasin Chai. He needs to start ushering in fast laps. And at this point, Skyzy, he will definitely need to box again, I think. There is definitely going to be a call out for the soft tyre yet again later on. I have no doubt about that. He's already ushered in 16 laps on this compound, and we still have the small matter of 19 laps to go, soon to be 18 as well, as Tom 97 sets after him too. He, of course, also has 20 laps on his compound of tyre, with Noiguera on 11 laps remaining. Tom's strategy working out pretty strongly as well. 7 laps accrued on his mediums, Williams, but is under attack here from El Reyguri, who is on the hards and is really putting out a great performance. And I have to tell you, could today be the day for El Reyguri, because his pace has been electric, his strategy looks on point, he has a great chance of bringing home some major points here at Jeddah as well to boot. But could it be P1 here, Dan?
It could potentially be. It could be. I mean, in terms of this, I mean, yeah, they are certainly in the driving seat right now. Of all the one-stop strategies, I think theirs looks the most promising, to be able to push a set of hards all the way to the end of the race. Even though they are, yes, a slower tyre, at least you know that you can push them all the way to the end without having to worry about them too much. And Infratic then, making no bones about it, saying, these guys want to kill me. I'm sure it would have been said in far more manly and slightly Portuguese-sounding way than that. But yes, it's not necessarily the position that they want to find themselves in, clearly.
Well, clearly Fabio has his tinfoil hat on at this point and is making some serious dramatic statements. P6 and 3 seconds away from Tom in P5. Tom, incidentally, putting the pressure on El Reyguri for that 4th place yet again, and has managed to circumnavigate his way around El Reyguri and take that place away. But for how much longer? Because, of course, El Rey will have his own chance later on. That guy Vince unseating Infratic 2, but the DRS will now open up again for El Reyguri as the Spaniard now looks to go on the attack. Will he open the door in towards turn 1? He certainly will. And M Sky Z coming into the pits for a change of tyres. It will be medium tyres to the end. He's not opting for the softs at this very end either. And keenly enough, Tom97 has jumped him through the pit stop phase. So now this will go to the very end of the race as El Reyguri takes the absolute lead here and is on the one-stop strategy, which should bring him home. But now the battle for the title is on and Rasin Chai needs to get moving.
He certainly does, and that being said, he is very much on the move. He is 1.5 seconds off the back of Safso right now, which, given when he first came out the pits, he was 6 seconds behind Meraki. That is a emphatic statement of just how much he is pushing now to try and get himself forwards and onto the back of other cars in front and get those positions made, get those points in the bag. Now, the other thing is, of course, that you've got these drivers all pushing hard, of course, and throughout all of this, you've also got now Benjamin Daly, who is a lap down. I think this is a challenge which he might be regretting, really, in the end here. But he's a lap down. He's one of the 2 Ferraris that we can see in shot here. I think that he's the one behind our current viewing, and that is that guy Vince, of course. El Rey has just dropped down into P2. Tom has therefore taken the lead of the race at this stage. And as it is right now, then, with M Sky Z needing to make up all this time, all these positions and everything else, there is less than 20 laps to do so. I'd be interested to see what the leader distance graphic is at this point in time, because if he's within 20 seconds, he is very much within 20 seconds. He's 14 seconds off the lead, so he needs to catch at less than a second per lap. Of course, has overtakes he'll need to do along the way, but a DRS around here is worth about 1.2 seconds over the course of a lap. So just by having DRS, he's going to be able to close in on El Rey and Tom pretty handily. It could be that M Sky Z does manage to come back and get this here, but it's of course going to rely going through the traffic and that traffic being compliant. We've seen on plenty of occasions this season, not just for him, but for other drivers in the field as well, that things can sometimes get a bit handbags at dawn between our Creator Series drivers.
It certainly can. I just want to say as well, Nogueira now on soft tyres to the bitter end, so he'll be looking to take them well and truly deep into this race. That's part of his 2-stop strategy. He managed to get ahead of Meraki for that 9th spot. For the down booster as well, trying to gain as Alex Gillen goes around the outside of that guy Vince and manages to take 4th place away from him. And now next on his list is Infratic, who has managed certainly a sensational race, probably his strongest of the season as well, but certainly as Faenza and Maranello come together side by side, it will be the AlphaTauri with the Tiger line and will ascend heading through the fast right and left as they now circumnavigate this Saudi Arabian circuit. And Alex Gillen on the podium, but he's got a small matter of taking 4-lap-old soft tyres to the very end of this race.
Absolutely. So the duel in the desert very much happening at this point in time. As Alex Gillen then defends into the final corner from Infratic, is 5.4 seconds off the back of El Reyguri in front. And that then is just a great illustration as to what we were talking about earlier on. It was a point that we sort of raised and then didn't really come back to again. But it was this idea of that, you stay out that extra few laps, and then this is what ends up happening. In terms of the gap, El Rey and Tom both coming into the pits on the same lap that Alex Gillen could have done, but he decided to stay out that bit longer, is on the softs, and is not catching them convincingly at this stage.
Yeah, incredible. Tom now out in front in this race now, 10-lap-old mediums, with El Rey Guri on 10-lap-old hards now in second place, but will have the benefit of the DRS. Tom, of course, looking to take these mediums as long as he can. Remember, he's on that one-stop strategy as well, so that definitely seems OP. Of course, Alex Gillen also trying a one-stop, but he is going softs to the very end, which is going to be very tricky. Now, what I will say is now MSkyZ meets Pay, the two teammates together. Tom 97 has just gone purple in the first sector, currently sat in P6 as well, as they now come together. Papaya currently sat 7th and 8th. The two McLarens now making their way through the slalom here at the Corniche, as they now utilize the power of the DRS once again, and certainly now SkyZ ascending up into P7 position. So now keeping up this pace, MSkyZ looking far the more likely to be crowned champion here this time around in the EA Sports F1 Creator Series, and now just needs to bring it home, bring his best, as that guy Vince moves up to 4th as well. Meraki back past Noiguera as those two spar it out for P9. An incredible fight, incredible duels across the circuit, as now a battle for the lead erupts again, and the Spanish god El Rey Guri up to first place, Tom down to second, Tom 97 ushering in the fastest lap. It is now all happening here on lap 36 as Infratic and that guy Vince come into the pits.
Absolutely. So lots of action going on up and down this field, but with those guys going into the pits, then it does mean that that makes life all the easier for MSkyZ. They've moved up a few positions from that. They've now got 3.3 seconds they need to catch onto that of Tom 97, then another 3.8 seconds from them up to Alex Gillen, 4.4 from Gillen up to Tom, and then it's just a few tenths away from the race lead. I think that MSkyZ now just needs to keep it together, just needs to keep everything nice and calm. They don't need to go for the win necessarily here, because Racing is far away. That being said, though, actually, Racing, as a result of those drivers ahead of them going into the pits, they now find themselves in 9th place, so just 1 place away from what Racing needs if MSkyZ does finish in 2nd place. So this is still very much to play for at this point in time. 7.8 seconds separates Meraki and Racing Chai at this point in time. Peya now demoted down to 8th place, so it's now going to be between the teammate of the championship rival and then the championship rival fighting one another later on, potentially. As well, considering that Peya's got soft tires on, which may well degrade and fall apart by the end of this race. Peya and Meraki fighting hard at this point in time, you can see there. But as they go into the final corner, then Noiguera manages to best the pair of them, gets up into P6, and will now chase on after MSkyZ. They potentially have the greatest chance, I would say, of being able to deal with MSkyZ here and deny them victory, but it's not going to happen when they're not getting DRS, and down into turn 1, contact there between Noiguera and then Peya as well. That then is going to massively slow up the McLaren. It's going to essentially delete them from this fight for a brief period of time, if not permanently. And the question now then, does Noiguera have any damage as a result of that? There might be some very light damage. We didn't see anything come off the front wing there, but yeah, this is just absolutely brilliant racing between all of these guys, although Noiguera maybe just needs to just calm things down ever so slightly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Noiguera still in P6 and trying to muster in as much time as he can. Remember, he is on soft tyres. No damage by the looks of it sustained to the Alfa Romeo Sauber as he looks to give chase after MSkyZ. Mr. Dale now moves up to 11th as well, but 9 seconds of penalties will go against him. Boosler currently sat in 12th as we now take a look at this fight between Meraki and Noiguera. Still rumbles on here at Jeddah. 4 tenths soon becomes 3, and it becomes 2 as they come through the very fast slalom, as they now beckon their way in towards the final sector. DRS will open up here for Meraki. Remember, last season's champion, as they look to run wheel to wheel again this time. Williams v Sauber Alfa Romeo. The Williams is the dub here on this occasion, but still they have a long straight to take, and Noiguera is going to look to try and fight back here on his soft rubber as they now open up the rear wing once again. This time it's the turn of the Sauber Alfa Romeo as they headed towards turn 1 this time. Meraki can do absolutely nothing about it, and Noiguera now remains in 6th place.
He certainly does. 4 seconds of MSkyZ though, so the gap has actually increased between the pair of them. Peya's gone into the pits, which has now elevated Racing Chai up to 8th place. This is the place he needs if MSkyZ were to finish in 2nd place. Now, I think that therefore means that we could end up seeing this actually go to Racing by a point or maybe even from countback. Come the end of this one, we'll have to wait and see. But obviously there's still some in the air here as far as what could end up happening. There's going to need to be a big old drop-off in tyre performance, though, for those at the head of the field if Rassen wants to move too far forward from where he is currently, though, I suspect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Rassen still needs to put the work in. 6.2 in behind Meraki as it currently states, but obviously we've still got the small matter of 12 laps to go. Meraki now gaining on the tail of Noiguera again, as these two are going to look to try and battle heading into the final sector on this lap. Again, through the slalom, very much a carbon copy of what we saw the lap previous as Tom and El Rey once again come together. Tom now leading the race as now Meraki looks to go on the charge as they go side by side for P6, and Meraki managing to successfully get his car ahead, but once again Noiguera will have DRS heading down the home straight, leading through towards turn 1. A great opportunity here for the two of them. El Rey now retaking that P1 again. Tom reduced to second. Meraki now looking to try and hold on to that P6. Noiguera looks to open up that rear wing, will not challenge in towards turn 1, this time relenting and opting to stay behind that rear wing of Meraki for P6.
I think that's a dangerous thing for Noiguera to do there. I think by staying in behind, they've got those softs, they're much more sensitive to temperature, and therefore when you're following another car, then you're of course getting that dirty air effect. That means you're going to be sliding more, which means you're taking more out of the tyres, and of course those temperatures will start to go up as well. So combine that of course with the already relatively high ambient temperatures here in Saudi, and then of course add to all of that the hot air that will then be flowing into the engine by being behind another car. That's then going to be the thing that really starts to hurt. And Rasin Chai, I said his head might have dipped earlier. I think it may have started to rise back up again, because he's now saying this is winnable. And certainly if things were to finish like this, it would be.
Well, I tell you what a way to finish that would be. I mean, obviously the championship up for grabs. He is in the pound seats right now. And obviously Skysy's still got a lot of work to do if he wants to try and take this title here at this stage. Just earlier on, it did look like Skysy was in, should we say, the prime spot, as now Tom now makes a move around the outside, coming in towards the final hairpin corner. But El Rey will have his chance once again. DRS will once again open up for the Spaniard as they make their way down towards turn 1. No safety car, please, this time, says Razin. He wanted it earlier, not this time. El Rey Guri, though, this time will take the lead of the race once again, as he and Tom still continue to swap places. And this, of course, extending the life on Tom's medium tyres, because he can just stay in behind, use that DRS and maintain the lead.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, but in addition to that, it also means it's actually making a likelihood of a Rasin Championship win more likely, because as we see Emphatic get a move done there on that guy Vince, as things stand right now, if El Rey and Tom continue to do this together, where they're just using DRS off of one another lap after lap after lap, it's meaning that they're carrying that extra speed around the lap. Remember what I said earlier on, it's worth 1.2 seconds around the lap is DRS at this particular venue. So if you imagine that half the lap you're in behind, half the lap you're ahead, then each car is gaining about 0.6 of a second over the course of the lap. That means that, of course, it's going to be that much easier to keep the gap between yourself and the cars behind, which includes, of course, the fast-charging M-Sky-Z. That all being said, Alex Gillen looks to have maybe given himself a bit of pep, a bit of zest at this point, because he's been able to close down the gap on those two in front, despite the fact that they're using DRS off of one another, and he is not really giving all that much of it to Tom at 97 at this point in time. Though I say all of that, it then happens to be that Tom 97 goes straight on by Alex Gillen. Of course it does.
Yeah, both Alpines ascending as well, because Tom, his teammate, has just taken the lead of the race. So there we have it. Swaps all round. And up ahead, you can see now the two, the Alpine and the Sauber Alfa Romeos once again going wheel to wheel. El Rey Guri now once again going for the lead. They're working together quite clearly here. Are the front two. Tom 97 in third. Of course, Tom's teammate with Alex Gillen in behind. Now making their way out of turn 1 and turn 2 in towards turn 3 and turn 4. Skyzy as well further back. We just saw him coming into picture earlier on. Meraki in 6, bringing Noiguera into the fight, who is only 3/10 behind him here at this stage. They work their way through the slalom as well here at Saudi Arabia. Plenty of battling still to come. 9 laps remain and the title on the line. Could it be the case that it'll forward its way to M-Sky-Z? Will it be the turn, though, of Rasin Chai to lift certainly his first championship in Creator Series history? As now we're waiting and seeing them make their way through the middle sector. Tom now still in second place, with El Rey still plugged in at the front, but with DRS, swaps are definitely on the cards.
They're certainly on the cards. Whether or not they end up coming out or not is up to interpretation at this particular point in time. Oh, big enormous moment for Tom there. And oh, I tell you what, if he wasn't wearing brown trousers before, he will be now after a move like that through Lance Stroll corner. And as we start to go up and into the final corner, then he's going to have to just pace himself slightly, just get himself back into a nice rhythm. And he then needs to push on nice and hard and stay with El Reguri. As it is, though, this is now starting to look more and more and more like it's going to become a DRS train between all these drivers. And that then could be something that manages to maintain the chances that, of course, we end up. Oh, it's a safety car! Safety car has been called! And that is because JD Devil Noob is all the way off there. And is that then damage? Is there a car out? No, it doesn't seem to be. And so I think, yes, that's just from them going all the way off into the distance. Now, have they done that in an effort to try and get out of someone's way and lost their front wing as a result? I don't know, but I'm sure that we'll be able to get something from and Racing managed to get into the box there before we saw the change in terms of the going to safety car. I don't think that the race leaders did, so Racing's essentially getting a free pit stop here. The ones in front may not get one. It's all suddenly a little bit of jeopardy at the end here. And of course, there are drivers who've made use of soft tyres far more than others in this race. I suspect that he's now going to be on brand new softs, and those he's going to be fighting with later on are not going to be on fresh softs.
Well, I tell you what, while we digest this, let's head across. We haven't heard much from him. Scotty Taylor, over to you, sir. Talk us through it. I mean, that is, I think, has blown this wide open, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely. As we'll try and get the clip book ready for you, I'll get it for you guys, just so you know. JD's equipment failed. His equipment failed. He went straight into the wall at 200 miles an hour, and that is. I don't know if he's got it back up. I'll get the clip book running for you. That's what's happened.
That incredible scenes, it has to be said. Thank you, Scott, for that. We will come back to you very shortly. Obviously, Racing Chai, absolutely maddening scenes here. Now, he was declaring that he did not want a safety car, but looking at this, Dan, it might have been the best thing to ever happen to him because he's got fresh, soft tyres on, and M-Sky-Z didn't get the chance to box as the safety car came out. So, major work there from Racing Chai. Epic job, certainly, to pull that off. And you've got to give him credit because now he's put himself in the best chance of potentially even winning this race.
Potentially. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, as the race leaders reach the start-finish line, and they'll inevitably go into the pits themselves, then we'll likely end up seeing the lifting of the safety car Delta. In they go, exactly. And so as we go around the final turn then, it will be a full, as you say, pedal to the metal for Racing Chai, and he'll hope that he will be able to then get that undercut done essentially on those other drivers, but I'm not sure if that's necessarily going to be the case because they will still have a Delta to operate against, and no, we've not seen any change in position for them, sadly.
No, Sky-Z has managed to still hold on to that track position, so no changes. Racing Chai still in P8, but it's going to be a straight fight now. We've got everyone in the top 10 on soft tyres. Unbelievable. Tom, though, still out in front of the race here, has obviously also made a change. So that one-stop strategy is now all of a sudden by default turned to a two-stop. Of course, free pit stops all around here at this point. So, I mean, what better way to end a Creator Series season than to have a safety car with 7 laps, or should we say 6 laps when the safety car comes in, maybe even 5 to go here, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody from P1 all the way down to P15 on a brand new set of soft tyres. That's what I'm seeing here on our telemetry data. Poor old Boosler has got a set of 1 lap old mediums on. Now they've come into the pits for a new set of softs, so they're also on softs as well. Benjamin Daly is also into the pits for what is presumably going to be a new set of soft tyres. And then we'll see B-Roy and JD, of course, coming in for new tyres too. So everybody in the field is going to be on, near as damn it, a brand new set of soft tyres going into these last few laps.
Well, let us know in the live chat if you're tuned in wherever you are in the world. A big shout out to you all if you're tuned in here on Twitch. Make sure you leave a follow to the F1 Creator Series as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to obviously hit that subscribe button and also leave a like. And also check out the socials. Join the conversation. Hashtag F1 Creator Series, and it's at F1 Creator Series on Twitter, Instagram, and also the TikTok account as well, where regular obviously videos are indeed posted. We can head back now to Scott Taylor, who can give us some insight. Scott, have you got the replays for us?
I do. Hopefully everything else is working well. We can jump on to... Okay, we're going to go into JD. Honestly, it's a bit of a strange issue, I won't lie. He's went straight in He's went straight into the wall. He says his equipment's failed. It's a very strange situation, to be honest, but honestly, for the future and for the actual end of this race, for the finale, I feel like this is going to be the most intense 5 laps. We're almost setting this whole season down to a 5-lapper. Is it going to be like the open lobbies? We don't know, but absolutely incredible. Let's go, as I'll show you now that clip looks working. This one has to I'll let you guys be the judge of it.
Oh,
Coming
no,
in.
my equipment's failed.
Equipment failed. Straight into the wall. Boom.
Okay,
That didn't
listen,
take his
don't
wheel
worry
off.
about it, mate. It can happen to the best
I
of
think
us.
he can count himself somewhat lucky in some regard that the car didn't bin it altogether, but losing a front wing is never ideal. He's caused a safety car, certainly not by his own doing, but obviously, like you say, due to an equipment failure, but shocking scenes nonetheless. Thank you, Scott, for that insight. So that's the reason for the safety car, everybody. We are now here at this point, lap 44 of 50, safety car still out. We're awaiting to hear as to whether it's going to come in on this lap. I definitely would expect it to make a reappearance, though Boosler, Tim Marduk, B-Roy has a lot of catching up to do, as well as JD Devilnoob. We'll have to wait and see, but an interesting complexion here, Dan, and I must say I'm here for it. Obviously, given the fact that we've got all our championship protagonists in the mix, with these final few laps still to go, scenes have never been more dramatic, have they, really?
No, not at all. Not at all. And yeah, it's a really, really stressful situation. I certainly wouldn't want to be one of these drivers at this late stage. It is now essentially coming down to a sprint. An entire season of driving now comes down to essentially 5 laps when we are able to really let things rip.
Yep, certainly will do. We've still got one final lap to bring as well, folks. Running wide than the McLaren, I think, of Skyzy. Was that Skyzy? I think they were just giving him a chance to catch up, which is great team spirit there on display by the Creator Series drivers. Obviously allowing him to unlap himself and make sure that he can still take a pivotal role in this finale. Of course, he's got a lot of circuit to travel before he can catch up with the rest of the field, but beginning lap 45 under the safety car here. And like I said, a huge thank you to all the viewers who have tuned in here as well. And it's important to note as well, Dan, we've got to talk about it because the Creator Series is also expanding. The EA Sports F1 Creator Series expanding to the world of WRC as well, which is truly thrilling, truly exciting. And we've got to say, we have got the EA Creator Series WRC Club, which is running on Mondays at 7:15 p.m. So make sure you check that out. If you want to get involved, you can. Be sure to head across. We've got a huge broadcast package that the only Gareth Allen has been working on, and it's going to be exciting to see how some of the talents that exist under the banner of the Creator Series get on under that vastly different sim. Of course, we're going from F1 cars to rally cars, which are going to be absolutely sensational. Reminder of the point system as well down below. Remember, points on offer to everyone from Ps1 down to Ps15, which is essentially why we've had such a close championship, I think, Dan.
I think so, in parts, yeah, absolutely. It's also why it's been actually kind of difficult for some drivers to get themselves back into the mix. You know, they miss a round or two. Everybody is so tightly packed in terms of points. It then just means there's not a huge differential between points for them to be able to make up big steps and big ground. So it's a double-edged sword, but, you know, it's one of these things which we'll look at going into the future, I'm sure. And if there is a better solution that presents, then I'm sure we'll go for it. But as it is right now, I think it's great. It does make our lives a little bit more difficult in terms of trying to remember what position is what and how many points are what, because, of course, we all have the F1 point system. But there we are then. We've got race control's message. Safety car is in at the end of this lap. And, well, poor old B-Roy has tried their absolute best to get themselves back onto terms here. But I think, sadly, their move up the field to try and unlap themselves was ended by these drivers maybe focusing too much on their own race rather than anything else. El Rey then being a little bit naughty. We don't want to see drivers getting alongside one another, as we see in the real world. You have to be single file. And, oh, well, look at that. Tom has decided to go. He has taken the fact that El Rey went for it way too early, had to slam on the brakes. At the same time he slammed on the brakes, he's then pulled away. It's then made El Rey very, very vulnerable indeed as we go down to turn number 1. M-Skyzy in the background trying to make a move as well. Down on Miraki as well, having a look up the inside too. Tom 97 defending the position as well. And as we head on through, Rasinchai has been able to make up a position. They're up into P7, the championship leader. They're going to go go side by side through these next few corners, and Noguera forced out to one side. Rasinchai up to 7th place. That's another place that's going to be able to make their life a bit easier in terms of trying to keep their hands on this championship. One hand is already clasped firmly around it. The other needs to just wait another few laps here, George.
Yeah, Mr. Dale's out as well, a retirement as we put pedal to the metal for the second time in this Grand Prix, and certainly Rasinchai pulling no punches as he looks to try and jettison his way up the order. He's got Meraki next on his list, but Meraki is after him, Sky Z as well. We've got an immense fight now between our two championship protagonists, but not forgetting Meraki is in the championship equation as well in his own right. He came into this race third in the title race and is now looking to try and bring it home as well for his own right here, but it's going to be an almighty task to do that while M-Skyzy is in front of you and championship leader Rasinchai is in behind. Tom 97 on the attack now of Alex Gillen as they go wheel to wheel, heading in towards the final corner on lap 46, and now Tom 97 putting on the squeeze against Alex Gillen as now they go half and half, side by side together through towards turn 1. We got El Rey Guri as well, hot on the heels of Tom, 3 wide heading into the first corner now, through the first chicane. It's El Rey Guri who takes the lead away and holds on to it with Alex Gillen in second. Tom 97 and Tom, the two Alpines, coming together.
Absolutely, yeah, it all went well up. You can imagine the word that should go before that happens. But yes, it was all just a bit of dirty fighting really between all the drivers, trying to absolutely force the issue there, and it all just not coming together for them in the right way that they would have hoped for. Up the inside though goes Meraki. He has done the thing which of course the driver behind will have absolutely hated, but the driver 2 places behind will have loved. Rasinchai now sees themselves right on the back of their rival. M-Sky-Z is now just 1 place in front of them. That means that they are in absolutely no doubt the current championship leader and will be the championship leader come the end of this race if things were to stay as they are. M-Sky-Z needs to make their way forwards, not back.
Yeah, the pressure cooker is now well and truly turned up, and here comes Rasinchai on the tail of title rival M-Sky-Z as they now make their way through towards the final hairpin. Now they'll meet 1 and 2 in the championship fight, and they are here 6th and 7th here in the classification. Rasinchai with the best chance he's had all race of toppling down M-Sky-Z and bringing Skyfall here at Saudi Arabia. Wheel to wheel as DRS gets enabled contact between the top 2 as they now headed towards turn 1. Alex Gillen trying to defend against Tom 97. Rasinchai takes that 6th place away, and M-Sky-Z forced to wait in behind as Alex Gillen topples Tom 97 for that P2.
Absolutely, the more they scrap between each other though, the more they're going to allow El Rey Guri to disappear off into the distance, and they have taken advantage of all that fighting in behind them. They have really put the hammer down in order to try and break that DRS toe, and that's exactly what they've done. Over a second now between Alex Gillen and then El Rey Guri up in front as well. They're going to need to really push hard now, Alex and co, to be able to try and have some chance of winning this race. And as it is then, El Rey is just pushing off into the distance, having a great old run here at this stage, and in the background you can see the Meraki going off of the circuit, going and cutting a corner as they went through, and that's not what they're going to be hoping for at all in terms of trying to keep the consistency together, in terms of trying to keep their position, because of course there's the risk of penalties and so on associated with cutting these corners. And as they go on through then, all these drivers still fighting one another hard. They are back now in contention with El Rey Guri. Still within a second there is Alex Gillen. He's got that DRS rear wing flap open, and as they come round the final corner for what will be the beginning of the penultimate lap here, it is very much El Rey Guri in the driving seat. But the question is going to come down, I think, to who has ERS remaining, or more of it remaining, on the final lap, because I think that is what could end up happening. And certainly from the flashing red light on the back of Alex Gillen's AlphaTauri, it must be said that he is not in the best and most healthy position relative to the race leader.
Yeah, incredible stuff indeed, as El Rey Guri still continues to persevere at the front. Now remember, of course, he is a race winner. Race winner back in the mystery race earlier on this season. It was actually the race before last that he was able to take that victory as well, not to mention taking the fastest lap to boot, and it certainly looks like it's going to be deja vu once again for El Rey Guri if he can bring this home along with that fastest lap as well. Alex Gillen under pressure because Tom 97 is hunting him down. Tom as well in in behind those, with Meraki still trying to close up, with Rasin Chai still very much in the mixer here, looking to obviously make sure of the prospect of landing this title victory. Of course, doesn't need to win the race at this point, just needs to bring the car home ahead of MSkyZ with a considerable points advantage, as now Tom 97 goes hunting down the inside of Alex Gillen, as these two greats of the F1 game now start battling here, with only the small matter of this penultimate lap, soon to be the final lap, to go.
Absolutely, we've got then these guys fighting here as well. Rasin and SkyZ continuing their fight, continuing their scrap with one another. And look at this now, round the final turn. And
Oh
no, what's happened there? Oh, an enormous contact between all the drivers in that final turn. And that's then resulted in so much damage. Front wing components being flown this way and that. As into the first corner, flying, not front wings, but instead Tom 97 past Alex Gillen on the final lap of the Grand Prix.
Absolutely dramatic scenes. Tom 97 taking full advantage. He now leads Alex Gillen as no SkyZ. No, goodness me. El Rey Guri and SkyZ. Remember, of course, these two came together. SkyZ is out of the race. And it all came together between he and El Rey Guri. The history that these two drivers have. Unfortunately now, SkyZ is out of the race. And Tom 97 here at this point is leading the way with Alex Gillen in second. Rasin Chai with the title in his hands. All he has to do is bring it home.
That's all he has to do now. We're going to watch him as he comes through on this final lap. We'll keep an eye, of course, on the leaders as well and who will actually win this race. But at this point in time, he has the position that he needs in order to get himself the championship. He will be champion if he just manages to maintain this position, even if SkyZ had won the race. If Rasin had been there in 5th place, that would have been that. Tom 97, though, is coming round the last couple of corners, and Meraki is still fighting. Meraki with a last-second attempt here, and has been able to do it very well indeed. Tom in 3rd place, Alex Gillen in 4th, but as it is, coming round the final turn now, up towards the line to win the race, will be Tom 97, but coming home in 5th place, it is Rasin Chai, your Creator Series champion!
Rasin Chai, he took victory for the very first time back at Bahrain and labelled down 4 podiums through this campaign as well. He has managed to become the Creator Series champion here in Season 5 in truly dynamic fashion, incredible style, in one of the most dramatic finales we have ever seen in F1 Creator Series history. And of course, one I'm sure that EA Sports will be proud of as well. MSkyZ, commiserations, what a way to go out. And of course, El Rey Guri, where a second Creator Series win could have been on offer, unfortunately losing it all in the final race. Unfortunately though, for him, it does mean he will not lay claim to any sort of title, any sort of victory. Tom 97, however, that is his 3rd race win this season, the only man to win it multiple times, and he has just won it for a magical 3rd time as well. 3 is the magic number for Tom 97, and number one, is the magic number for Rasin Chai, who is now, without a doubt, without question, without any other interpretation, he is your champion of the Creator Series in Season 5.
Absolutely brilliant. It's a shame that it all came apart like that at the end for MSkyZ. I'm sure they would have wanted to finish the season on the road, even if they were losing the title. But yeah, I mean, I must say, we've got to call a spade there, and El Rey Guri trying to send it up the inside with no front wing on their car. It was only ever going to end one way, and I'm surprised it was just the one car that was taken out as a result of that. It was an overambitious move, and it ruined what had been a very good race for them up until that point. Even if the loss of their front wing wasn't their fault, we didn't get a good angle on that particular incident, but you know, that was very much on them at the end.
Yeah, we got to take you through the classification. Tom 97, your winner. Meraki second. Tom in 3rd. Alex Gillen 4th. Rasin Chai 5th. In 6th, it's that guy Vince. Tim Mardek, what a drive. 7th place. GB68 in 8th. We got Zafso in 9th. Altaco Man 10th. Boosler in 11th. Infratic 12th. El Rey Guri after the crash. P13. Noiguera 14th. Peya 15th. MSkyZ binning it. DNFing, as did JD Devilnuba lap down. B. Roy, Mr. Dale and Mitchie Hoyer, the unfortunate retirement that we lost earlier on too. Unfortunately, some dismay that we have had through the course of this race. But nonetheless, a title has been decided. Scott, welcome back. Did you enjoy that? I mean, talk us through it from your perspective. Those final 5 laps after the safety car, I would say more in essence, the final 2 laps of the race. What did we just see?
I feel like I've done more work in the final 2 laps than I have in the entire race. I've been frantically trying to get clips of that. It is heartbreaking. You've seen something. Yeah, do you know what? Let's show everyone.
Let's check him out. Come on, Scott.
Yes, let's have a look.
So here's SkyZ's final end to the season. Very unfortunate. Apparently we're broke again. We'll get it fixed in a second. This is just drivers that are not giving each other any room, but they're also being as fair as they can. But it's Jeddah, right? There's not enough space. It's turn 3. Turn 3 is always an issue when 2 cars are going for each other. It's quite unfortunate. SkyZ, his tyre came off. Maybe and sometimes the tyre wouldn't have come off. Just one of those times. He is absolutely gutted. If anyone has had more trouble this season in terms of, you know, whether it be the random mechanical failure or whatnot, or disconnecting, we'll get that back to you in a second, George. We'll send it back to you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a tremendous race, and obviously the drama did not disappoint towards the very end. Obviously, there was some unsavoury stuff as well, Scott, but can you give us your take on the actual El Rey and SkyZ moment?
Incredible. Like, it's just, okay, we're fixed. Let's go back and I can show you exactly what's been going on. So this was my point of view. This was SkyZ having his issue here. We'll get it right back for you. Here we go. So, coming in, lap 50. Look how close everyone else. What an incredible race with that safety car at the end. But coming into turn 3, he has that outside line. As you can see, the red arrows there just clips the back of his tyre, goes straight into the wall, and the wheel just comes straight off in dramatic fashion. And SkyZ is just absolutely gutted. If you would like to see it from the other point of view, I have that for you as well. I have El Rey's POV. Let's get that for you right up here. Be working in that regard. As we see coming into the same turn on that inside line, just turns the slightest bit too late. Again, not intentional, obviously. It's a very hard corner for 2 drivers to do. They've sadly not been able to do it that time. Quite an incredible end to the season. What do you think?
Well, I mean, we've got one driver smiling there, the other one not. So I don't know what to make of that. I'm sure I can tell you this: SkyZ was not smiling whatsoever through the course of that. El Rey, obviously, a very different perspective, but I mean, honestly, unbelievable. I don't know what to say really about that. I mean, Dan, that's heartbreak, isn't it? I mean, given the season that we have had, SkyZ, very much a championship contender. Many of us actually thought he was going to run away with it this year. When we looked at the early start of the season, he took the victory. He had another podium at Monaco after taking P2. Since then, the podium's dried up a little bit, but he did take another one at the Algarve after finishing 3rd. But the points have been there for SkyZ. It's just coming into that final portion, the final quarter of the season. It's just slipped away, and I can't help but say that moment alone probably epitomises his second half of the season.
It does. You may well not have known what to say about it, but I kind of do.
Hang on, just 2 secs.
Okay, there we go, good. So in terms of this, I mean, I can honestly say, as we wait for George to get his headphones back on, looking at the 2 clips, I mean, at the time that it happened, I was willing to kind of give a bit of benefit of the doubt in that, you know, you've tried to get the car slowed down into that corner, knowing you don't have a front wing and so on and so forth. But fundamentally, he's braked at the normal braking point with no front wing on his car, and then he's been smiling about it afterwards. I mean, I would say in the best case scenario, that is being a bit of a prat. In the worst case scenario, it's an intentional thing to do. I mean, that's. I know that there is a consensus amongst us in the commentary box that we tend not to try and bash people, but for that, I think that's just silliness. Frankly, that's the 10 bit.
There we are. Dan Gilligan has spoken, everybody. So there we go. Make sure. Yeah, he certainly has. He never fails. Never fails. Make sure you check out his podcast as well. It's brilliant. We do, of course, have interviews as well. So we'll take you through them now, folks. First of all, of course, we're going to be bringing in Tom. Tom, the man from Alpine, who joins us now in the Creator Series commentary box. And look at that. The familiar face that we love here in the F1 Creator Series. Welcome back, Tom. Can I just say, What a phenomenal race, a true battle, I think, it has to be said, but what a dramatic final 5 laps.
Ay, 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 George, what the flip, man. It was, dude, honestly, like, I did 20. Have you seen my stint on the flipping soft at the start? Oh my, I thought
Incredible.
I was gonna be in the fight for the win, then the flipping safety car comes out. The same thing happened when I was fighting for the championship, and this time, I don't know if you guys noticed, we fought for the championship too, because Alpine was in the fight for the championship. 20 points, okay? From Mercedes to Alpine, and I'm telling you now, me and Tom did it!
Yeah, team's champions. I mean, it has to be said. I mean, you're a strong team anyway. We know your quality. We know Tom 97's quality. The two Toms, the TNT, I'm going to call you guys, I think. You're explosive, obviously. But I just want to talk about those 5 laps. I mean, was there any point? We were a little concerned about the strategy with the one stop. I think the softs and mediums, was it going to work? We saw Alex Gillen try something similar because he actually went from the mediums to the softs very late on. Was there ever a doubt in your mind that it wasn't going to work? Because we did see a few drivers occupying. I think El Rey adopted the hard tyre stint towards the end, and he looked quick.
When he did that, I thought I have him in the bag, because doing 24 laps on the softs and sticking with the first DRS terrain, right, was like, I'd never imagined I could do that. So I would be able to do that with the mediums as well. I would have been scared of Tom, because Tom was really, really quick today. He would have probably won the race if it wasn't for the safety car. But then I think I would have been, together with Alex, like in prime position to fight for like P2, P1, P3. So I would have been there no matter what. But I was very scared when the safety car came out, because that's my weakness. Like, qualifying laps is my weakness, and you know it. I always qualify like P11, P12 or whatever, and then I come through the pack. But yeah, luckily it kept going. But unfortunately, I did come together with El Rey in the last corner, which you might have seen as well, which is very unfortunate, because I would have loved to have that fight with El Rey as well. But yeah, wasn't meant to be. Luckily, I didn't get damaged. But yeah, El Rey's race was over. So unfortunate.
Yeah, it was the unfortunate end as well. And unfortunately, M-Skyz got taken out as well by El Rey in the fight. So that was, of course, a big moment, because that was for the title. You yourself, though, were right in the mix. You have missed a few races this season, so obviously the hunt for the title wasn't really going to be on the cards. But, you know, looking ahead, your team's champions, you know, there's got to be an opportunity. Tom, you've got to return. You've got to take that driver's title. Surely there is an opportunity here next season.
Look, George, how about we make a deal, okay? Deal?
I'm up for a deal, man.
All right, you give me 50 points to start next season, I will win the championship for you.
I'm not going to give you that. So you No. I didn't shake on it. Hey, listen, you've got a great chance next season, my friend. I got to tell you, great to have you back as well in the F1, Creator Series, EA Sports F1 Creator Series. We love your charisma. We love your creativity. The chat warmed to you as well. Wish you all the best for next season, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tom. Tom joining us, everybody. What a character. And certainly we'll take a look at yet another one. We got Jake with us now. Maraki joins us in the commentary box. Warm welcome, Jake. It kind of worked, didn't it? It kind of worked.
Sort of. I mean, what works? I'm just agreeing. I don't know what works.
The strategy. The idea.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, sort of.
Kind
Well,
of.
it's an improvement from P18, right?
Just a bit.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a 16 positions. But honestly, I'm more annoyed that I was less than a second from winning.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's the
I mean,
painful thing.
I mean, I'm more, you know, I must say, confounded at the fact that you somehow managed to dodge all the chaos that happened in the first, in those final few laps. Can you talk us through it from your POV, please?
I kind of want to say it's the open lobbies that I do. I'm used to stuff like that happening and cars just flying everywhere in front of me. So I think I just had the perfect kind of amount of like, the perfect distance between me and Tom ahead of me to kind of like just avoid it. If I was like another couple of tenths closer, I'm probably losing my front wing as well. But yeah, that kind of helped me get a podium, I guess.
Well, it was quite something, because we basically had all 4 championship contenders pretty much in the fight together in that safety car period. So anything could truly happen at that point. Was there ever a thought that you might have been able to do it?
At points, I was like, you know, at the start of the race when I think Razin got damaged and he had to box, I was like, oh my god, I'm kind of annoyed that I'm doing this last to wherever challenge, because if I was at the front in that pack, that puts me in like a really good position to, you know, win the championship. But I knew at the end with Razin behind me, because he got really helped out by that safety car. With him behind me, he wasn't going to do anything stupid, because all he had to do was just pretty much get top 10 really, and he's guaranteed to win it. So yeah, Tom finishing ahead of me means I don't get P2, but still P3 after starting last every race. I'm happy.
And unfortunately,
Very happy.
Unfortunately, the two Toms, I'm calling them TNT from now on, they actually managed to beat you guys for the team's title, so you must be really disappointed with that.
Wait, I was in the teams?
I think you were, or did I? No, Mercedes. Sorry, forget I said anything. That was that was Mercedes. I do apologise. Yeah, I'm doing you dirty here, Jake. I do apologise.
Yeah, my teammates either never show up or they crash.
Hey, don't say things like that about B-Roy. He's a nice guy. Listen, hey, listen, we've got next season coming up. You are a Creator Series champion. Obviously, we've yet to see anyone go back to back. I don't think, anyway. So there's an opportunity anyway for you to take a second title next season. I mean, we said the same thing to Tom. What's the vibe? Are we going to be leaving this last to first nonsense alone, and you're actually going to try for once? Or you are.
I'm gonna try next season. Just because I always have a bit of fun this season. I've had so much fun. The last like 4 or 5 races, I've enjoyed it more than probably anything, and it's been so much fun. But next season, we're coming back. We're coming back, and we're lifting that again. We're coming for it. We're coming for it.
Yeah, incredible. Well, I tell you what, congratulations, Jake, on a great finale. I'm sure it'll make a great video as well if you ever make one. And it has to be said, phenomenal job this season as well. Managing to take P3 in the championship. It's Meraki, everybody. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. All the best, Jake. So that's Jake, everybody. No doubt delighted after the way he managed to conclude this season. But one man who is going to be absolutely chuffed. The salutes out, everybody. It's Tom Martinez, Tom97. What a way to finish your season. 3 wins through this campaign, especially after a very chaotic safety car restart.
Yeah, I thought I was on for the win before the safety car. Things were looking pretty decent, but the safety car comes out, and I had a fresh set of softs, so it was just about trying to obviously get through. I knew Tom and Alex had a used set, so El Rey was the only one with a fresh set. And it's Creator Series, there's always going to be a little bit of spice at the end, so I just tried to manage it well. I knew I had higher wings than everybody else, a la Lando Norris yesterday, so I just had to make sure when I timed my overtakes, I was ahead going into turn 1, sector 1, so that I could just, you know, send it through the S's and try to pull away. And that's what I did. I managed to drop Alex on the last lap just enough, and then he fell back. He had no battery and actually got overtaken. So I did what I could. Razin got P5. That last lap incident obviously helped him. He was already in a championship winning position before, I believe, running P8. So Sky retiring helped me. That was a good. So we'll get second place in the drivers. But good fun race.
Yeah, but you take the team's title, which I think is brilliant. Yes. So that's good news. So that's at least something for your troubles. I think, though, if you look at it on paper, I mean, you're only 11 points behind Rasen Chai. If you'd showed up to even maybe 1 more race or 2 more races, the complexion could have been vastly different. Do you take solace in that? And does that mean that next season we'll see you perhaps taking a more peripheral role in the Creator Series this year?
Well, I mean, this championship may have been mine. I mean, it's not every championship season you go through double jaw surgery. So to say I finished where I did, I'm quite happy with the achievement. So I enjoyed it. Really good season. Won 3 races, and I'm really happy for the constructors. And I'll hang my hat on the best bit of teamwork this season was Baku with Tom. That was, I'll hang my hat on that. So I'm glad we got that title. So I'll take that to the bank and run with it.
Yeah. So what's the objective next season then? What's the plan?
Oh, I've got to take another step, haven't I? One more step to go.
You've heard it here first, folks. Tom97 pushing for the title, but 3 wins this season, dwarfing everyone else through the course of the campaign. Tom, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant stuff. Statistically, one of the best drivers in the series, without any shadow of a doubt. What a performance from him. But it just would not be complete without interviewing our drivers' champion. A warm welcome to the one, the only, Rasen Chai. Rasen, congratulations. What a way to end. Dramatic, to say the least. Final 5 laps to go. There was a moment, I'm not going to lie to you, Rasen, there was a moment where we thought it was all over for you, but you somehow managed to come back. Phoenix performance.
Yeah, it was, to say the least, a interesting race. Absolutely, just everything just went wrong for me, possibly at the start. Didn't qualify great. You know, the soft runners overtook me at the start. I was like, that's fine. You know, I need to keep it clean. The SC restart, I haven't really watched it back. I don't know if I broke too late or GB broke too early. But going into that hairpin end of Sector 1, I got wing damage from hitting GB's car. Tried to keep out for another lap. Damage so bad, I had to box. Yeah, I had to go hard. It was just a no man's land. You know, it was just like so demotivating because you just thought you lost it. And then slowly pulled it back by boxing onto the mediums. Was P8 comfortably. Skyzy, I was keeping up to date. My chat was keeping up to date. Was P5. So at the time, I was still on points winning it. I think he needed to be P2 for me to win it. For him to win it at the time. So I was still going comfortably. I was, you know, gradually the mood was getting better. Of course, and the save score comes out. I can't lie, I was shitting it because I was like, when the save score coming out, anything could happen. And,
well, yeah. Well, just to allude on that, we got your team radio where you said, "Oh, please, no safety car," and then all of a sudden it came out. But you were fortunate because you had the pit entry literally as soon as it came out. So that must have been a stroke of luck that you were pleased about because you can make that change on the tyres. You didn't lose really any time at all, so you were able to finish strong in that final stint.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, it came out just then. Box, I didn't lose out to the guys behind. Potentially, Safso could have overtaken me if not be for that. So yeah, I can't really complain. Worked out well. Saved car restart, kept it clean. Tried to keep it tidy. I went for a move on Skyzy. You know, just to try to keep a buff from the cars behind. On the second final lap, went a bit deep. He got past me again. I was just comfortable sitting there, and then El Rey got damaged in the final lap, which is unfortunate because I think he was on track to win the race potentially. And then him and Skyzy came to collision in that turn 4, I think it is. Which, yeah, I had the front row view of it, I guess. Which, yeah, was interesting. But I don't think it was an intentional thing. El Rey's had damage, so he probably just couldn't get the car stopped in time. Unfortunately, it led to both of them out of the race. But yeah, I mean, I can't complain. We're champion of the Creator Series Season 5, so yeah, we take it.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously now we go ahead to next season, which I think will be probably just as competitive, if not more. So we're looking at perhaps Tom 97 doing a full season stint. He's looking to win the championship at least once. You got Meraki, who is now saying that he's going to forget these silly little last to first games. He's in for victory next season. And then, of course, MSkyZ, he's going to be looking to fight back after missing out this season. So, you know, we're going to be in for a real treat next season, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, next season, I think the fans are going to be looking forward to it even more. Potentially, you know, you've got the likes of new F2 drivers coming in. You've got Rob, the F2 champion from today, coming in. The playoffs are still yet to happen. The playoffs are going to be happening next week. So, you know, who knows? Potentially, a few F1 drivers might go down. A few F2 drivers might come up. And unfortunately, I believe Michi Hoyo, my teammate, is actually stepping down as a reserve for next season.
He is, yeah.
So,
yeah, and unfortunately, DNF tonight as well, which is a real
it was a bit unfortunate. But there is a big name. I won't reveal who, but there is a big name stepping in for Michi's seat next season. So a bit more competitive coming in next season. But hey, I think my outlook for next season is I'm going to start using the wheel. So it's going to be a whole learning curve. I'm going to be near the back most of the races. But hey, I've got to start somewhere. So I'll show my chat earlier. I've got my little Master Chief trophy here. Got the pads hanged up on a controller there. So it's officially retired. So yeah, we're moving on to the wheel.
Fabulous stuff. Racing, congratulations on the championship. You heard it here first, folks. He is coming back with a new wheel, and also a new driver joining the roster as well. Let your voices be heard in the live chat as to who you think that is. But in the meantime, congratulations, Razin, on a spectacular performance all season long. Great that you got your first victory at Bahrain as well in the previous race, but the title is yours nonetheless, my friend. Well done.
Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, Razin, everybody. And what a true professional. What a charismatic figure. We got many charismatic enigmas in the Creator Series, but it's great to talk to them and get their vibes on things. And, you know, credit to Alpine as well. Truly fantastic performances all season long. Tom hasn't been around for a good few of the races. He missed 3 on the spin at Austria for the sprint, as well as Austria itself and Portugal, and then missed out at Bahrain as well. So it's really a credit to, you know, Alpine that they have managed to do what they have done, Scott. You know, I suppose they need to give credit to Tom 97 with the 3 race wins he picked up.
Yeah, exactly. After going through such sort of life things like he has been with the whole like the jaw surgery and stuff, like to just get into the seat with new pedals and stuff throughout the season and just kind of win. Like, it just goes to show, like, we've said it before in the season, like, if he just gets a good run where, first off, he's there, available for the race, and understands his equipment, and even getting better as he just gets back to normal, like, can he be beat? I'm sure we'll find out next season, but, like, he's such a cool potential for the future. It's honestly so good sometimes just watching him drive when I'm doing the clip book and capturing everyone as well as I can. Like, he is up there, he's always consistent, and he's always having a laugh.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's brilliant that we've got to witness all of these really, amazing drivers, Dan, and also great content creators as well to boot. I mean, through the course of the campaign, we've seen many great moments, lots of battles. Me and you yourself, of course, commentated together throughout the course of this championship. Many controversial and charismatic moments. But is there one driver that's really stood out for you? Obviously, Rasen Chai's side, or maybe Rasen Chai himself. Is there anyone who's really sort of taken to you as such?
To be honest, I think both the championship protagonists, to be honest with you, I think that SkyZ has had their moments of genius. Rasen's had their moments of really good racecraft and race management, things like that as well. They've both, most of the time, certainly within their own control, been able to get the most out of their cars on a given day. I think that both the Alpine drivers as well, you've got to give them credit, because as you say, there was a huge list of absences from both of them as well. Not just Tom, but Tom as well. And I'll let you, audience, figure out which Tom I mean when I say Tom. But in terms of that, they've not necessarily been the full strength Alpine team throughout the whole time. And so the occasions where they have been together as a complete unit, they've been able to go out and smash it. They've been able to get great results, good victories, and good podiums as well. So those four, I would say. I know that you asked for one, but I don't care. I'm a rebel, as we all know, and so 4 is what you shall get.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, great to hear that, Dan. At the end of the day, we have so many drivers, very difficult to choose between them. All of them great figures as part of the F1 Creator Series. And obviously, we have got more to come as well, folks. Of course, the playoffs are going to be in full swing. We'll find out who's staying in F1 and who's leaving and going into F2 and who's coming up from F2. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens. Obviously, Rob winning the championship in F2 earlier on today. He will get himself a seat in the F1 Championship. How he's going to perform next season, Lord only knows. I think we're going to be in for a real treat when the new campaign rolls around. But in the meantime, we want to say congratulations, MSkyZ. He is the F1 driver of the day. So congratulations to him. Despite winning it, I think this is some small consolation prize, I think, after losing out on the championship in the way that he did. I'm pretty sure he probably would have preferred to cross the line. So commiserations, but also congratulations to MSkyZ for that. But at the end of the day, folks, we have had a fantastic championship display, and we want to thank each and every single one of you, the fans at home, the viewers that tune in, week out. We couldn't do it without you, and I myself, as well as the guys that are alongside me, really appreciate all the support in the world that you guys deliver week in, week out. Big thank you for that. If you want to check out the F1 Creator Series, you can do. A big thank you to you if you've tuned in on Twitch. Be sure to hit that follow button down below and make sure you stay up to date with when we go live. You can also check us out on YouTube as well. If you're tuned in on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button and also hit the like button to also Instagram and TikTok at F1 Creator Series. So make sure you head across and check those out and stay up to date with everything and all the updates. Oh, goodness me. Doesn't happen very often. But yeah, no, incredible. So let's go back to the social medias. Thanks again, everybody, for being so patient. At F1... Okay, right, we'll talk about YouTube first. My producer's in my ear telling me stuff, guys. YouTube. So, if you're on YouTube,
I'm trying to behave as much as I can, by the way.
Subscribe button. Big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit it. Hit the like button as well. Also, if you're on social media and you want to check out the F1 Creator Series, you can. At F1 Creator Series on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Plenty of updates there, folks. You can stay up to date with all the latest news around the F1 Creator Series. And also, if you want to check me out on social media, don't check our producer out. He drives me nuts. At It's George Morgan on Twitter and Instagram, as well as TikTok as well. That's where you can find me, folks, at It's George Morgan. Dan, where can they find you, sir?
They can find me in all sorts of places. They can find me on Twitch at Daniel Gilligan. They can find me on Instagram at DA Gilligan, where I just uploaded my new actor headshot. So, you know, if you give them a like from me, so it looks like I'm popular, then that'd be absolutely brilliant. But if you're interested in my wonderful Race O'Clock podcast, which has gotten started recently, we're going to have episode 5 coming out on Wednesday. I'm going to go record that after this is done. But if you want to find that, then the link, because I can abuse my moderator powers in this chat, is in the chat now. So go ahead and click that for the Race O'Clock podcast if you want to check that and me out and listen to me whilst you go to work, whilst you walk in the park, or whilst you do sweet, delicate things in the middle of the night. Who knows? It's appropriate for all.
I can endorse it as well, folks. Very, very good podcast that Dan Gilligan provides. So make sure you check that out. Gareth Allen has very kindly pinned that as well to the chat too, so you can check that out. Scott, where can they find you, sir?
Find me on F1 Scott everywhere, and just before the season done, like an absolute pleasure to be involved. Last season, sorry, I was just watching this, enjoying it every week. It's been my first season to be a part of this wonderful organisation. Just everyone's been so kind to me, including you guys. Have been amazing to work with. One happy bunny. Thank you so much.
Hey, Scott, we couldn't do it without you either, my friend. And we've got to give a quick plug as well to the EA Creator Series WRC Club, which is going to be running on Mondays at 7:15. So make sure you check that out. That's 7:15 in the evenings, folks. Be sure to check that out. Creator Series, not only now the home of F1, it is also the home of WRC as well, repping the brand EA Sports that are our proud partners as well. So make sure you check that out. You don't want to miss it. But folks, after what can only be described as a fantastic season, we've got one just around the corner as well. It would be Rasin Chai who would go on to take the title after taking victory at Bahrain and bringing home the necessary points required in order to lift the trophy aloft. We'll see how he gets on next season when we go racing again. But from all of us here, thank you for watching all season long. We'll see you next time. Take care. Goodbye.